Looks like it's just after 6 o'clock. I know there's still people signing in and coming in, but we're going to get started. We always start our meeting by repeating the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you'd repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'd like to excuse Commissioner Tippett. She is out this meeting. And let's have a roll call.
Chair Lidke?
Here.
Vice Chair Erickson?
Here.
Commissioner Tippett is excused. Commissioner Snow?
Here.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Edwards?
Here.
Commissioner Kasparian?
Thank you. Have we reviewed has everybody had a chance to review the minutes of March 13th, 2024?
Yeah.
I didn't see any changes that needed to be made. Appreciate your work on that, Aubrey.
I move that we approve the minutes of March 13th, 2024.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those have been approved. Okay, a few house cleaning items. We welcome all of you here. We appreciate the citizens' involvement and love to see that chairs are filled. Many times we don't have anybody here, and so it's nice to see you here and your participation and to read your comments and your concerns. So we appreciate that. We had over 42 emails and submissions on things, and so we appreciate your participation. We've got quite a few items on our agenda today. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 items. We go until 9:30. So we would like to be able to finish our business before then. And so we'd ask that if you have anything to say during the public hearing portion, that I know there is probably at least one HOA here, possibly 2. And so if you could have a spokesperson, I know you had a letter that a lot of you signed to and stuff, and so if you could just have, if you're going to just be repeating the same thing over and over again, have one person that can explain your concerns and your thoughts and stuff like that, just to save time. If we need to, we will impose a rule of 3 minutes for comments. And so we will hold you to that, and so we're not drawing it on. The other thing, too, is that many times these things are very emotional and stuff, and so we just ask you to be civil. Be civil to the applicant, and to everybody, and to please keep your comments to yourselves until the public hearing portion, and if you have something to say, please come to the podium. We don't want to hear people screaming out in the audience. We've had that before, and we don't appreciate it. So with that, we're going to start. Jonathan Anderson, our planner 2, he has an applicant from Craig Schmidtke, request approval of a conditional use permit for a vehicle repair use Precision Automotive to be located at 6906 South Cottonwood Street in the Clean Industrial Zone. Johnny, take it away.
Thanks, Chair Lidke. So as you said, this is for a conditional use permit for a vehicle repair use. It has been noticed, as you know, by our requirements. As Chair Lidke also mentioned, it's located in our Clean Industrial Zone there off of Cottonwood Street, 300 West. Staff has reviewed it. It has met all of our requirements for a vehicle repair use in the Clean Industrial Zone. We don't have any concerns. We're looking for you for if this would work. We recommend approval of this, and no public comments were received for this specific item for tonight.
Okay.
If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to help. And I believe Craig is also here if you have any questions for him.
Okay. Great. Craig, if you'd like to come forward, if you'd just please state your name.
Please speak a little louder.
The sound system in here is not good, so yes, please put the microphone right in your
It
mouth.
is Craig Schmidtke.
Schmidtke.
Yeah.
So you're just moving, I think you're just moving across the parking
We're
lot,
moving about
basically.
500 feet from where I've been for about 38 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, good.
We-
I'm glad we're keeping you in Midvale then.
You know, it's one of those things, you've been there so long, everybody knows where you're at, so try to stay where you're at. And I finally negotiated with the owner of the building to move in there, so,
Great,
and she's doing a lot of work to get me in there, so it's going to be, I think, a good thing.
good. Do you have anything to add to
No,
the request?
I mean, it's going to be good for Midvale. I mean, we're going to be probably bringing in 5 to 7 additional employees with the bigger, building, more revenue. I
Great.
mean, everybody's told me to let you know there's going to be more tax, I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
a tax bribe.
yeah, more
More
taxes.
taxes.
But yeah, I mean, we've always done it right there, so we'll keep doing it correct in the new building.
Great,
So,
thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay.
thanks.
All right, we'll open this application up for public hearing. If anybody would like to come forward and make any comments. Seeing that there is none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. I don't have much, it seems pretty straightforward. It meets all the conditions, so,
Appreciate you staying in Midvale.
yeah. So, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the conditional use permit for a vehicle repair shop at 6906 South Cottonwood Street with the finding noted in the staff report.
I second it.
All right, roll call.
Chair Lidke,
Yes.
Vice Chair Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
Commissioner Kasparian.
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, great. Thanks for staying in Midvale. Thank you. Okay, I think this is the one that most of you are here for. So we'll move forward. Wanted to acknowledge, like I said, we have received your letters and your emails, and we have reviewed them, and we appreciate you making your voice known and submitting those, and the articulate way in which you did so. And so we appreciate that and acknowledge that, and those have now become part of the record and have been sent to all of us to review. So with that, we'll, Vendelin Knobloch, our planning director, he has the application for Adam Paul. He requests a zone map amendment to add the regional commercial residential overlay zone to a property located at 7001 South, 900 East. Information regarding the proposed regulations, prohibitions, and permitted uses that the property will be subject to if the rezone is adopted can be found in Midvale City Code 17-7-12.1. Wendelin.
Thank you, Chairman. Give me just a minute until this all shows up. So this application deals with a zone map amendment. The applicant proposes to add the regional commercial residential overlay zone to a parcel that's currently already zoned regional commercial. For those who are not familiar with overlay zones, they're basically an additional zoning tool that can modify the underlying zone. And the process for an overlay zone is just like the process for a zone change. The Planning Commission looks at it, makes a recommendation to the City Council, then the City Council has the final say on an action like this. I wanted to introduce the property to you, where you see the exclamation mark. That's the frontage of this property. As you can see, it's located on 900 East, a major highway here in Midvale. It's actually owned by UDOT. It's not a city street. And also apparent on this aerial image, this is very close to Fort Union Boulevard and very close to all the services that are available in that area. And here's a close-up. I'm sure everyone who lives in Midvale remembers that there used to be an office building on this parcel that burned down a few years ago and hasn't been rebuilt in any way. And this aerial image, as you can see, it's actually slightly outdated because it still shows some of the structure that has been removed. This is just an image from the Midvale City General Plan, and the shaded areas on this map show what are called opportunity areas. Opportunity areas in our general plan are areas in the city that we expect to change in the future. And this property is at the very edge of one of these opportunity areas. I just also wanted to mention for everyone's benefit what our noticing process is. We set out a sign. This sign was set out on March 28th. Those of you who've been involved with this process earlier know that this was already agendaed once. So at that time it was noticed as well, but at that time the application was withdrawn. So we set out a sign, we sent out letters to neighbors in a 500-foot radius of the parcel. We use the county's database with basically registered property owners. And if some of you expected a letter and didn't receive it, it's due to some failures in this database. We sent out 63 letters, and we got 6 back. It's these. But I'm glad that the neighborhood is, a good neighborhood. People talk with each other, and I believe most people who are in this 500-foot radius have actually heard about this. With regard to the process, the city code wraps a structure around this type of an approval, and you as planning commissioners have seen this numerous times. There are 3 criteria for zone map amendments and also for development code amendments. And in this case, the first criterion and the third are pertinent to this application. In our general plan, as I had already shown, this is very close to an opportunity area, and the applicant addresses a community need for housing. This is a 7-story structure that they are proposing, and I'm going to show a little more of that later on. So an objective observer would probably say this can potentially address that community need. The third criterion here that addresses the land and its environment is also pertinent to this application. The formerly existing structure burned down, and I think an objective observer would also say it is in the public interest to do something with this land. I mean, it's in a very central location, it's on a major highway, there are quite a few services in the area. One could probably say for Midvale, this is the area that is most amenity rich in many respects. Then, in this particular case, the overlay zone has additional criteria. They're listed here. I address each one in the staff report. It's probably not really pertinent to go through all of this right now, but keep these in the back of your mind. Depending on your perspective, some of these you may say are fulfilled, some are not. In general, a zone change is a legislative decision, which means the city council as the legislative body for the city can make a decision based on what they find is pertinent and relevant for this community. And that, of course, means, depending on what your value system is, you may come to different conclusions, and they can all be good conclusions. That's the beauty of this. The applicant provided this concept, and I just wanted to point out to everyone that the concept has changed. The first concept was different than this one. In the first concept, you saw a footprint that was a lot closer to the neighboring property line on the east. On this picture, north would be on the left, west on the bottom, and east on the north. Here is a concept for a landscaping plan. And then this was provided as well with this new application. These are conceptual images of what the developer intends to do on this site. Of course, all of this is contingent upon approval of the zone change. This is a study from the developer's point of view that shows how a commercial building that could be built on this piece of land right now may differ from a mixed-use or fully residential building. The red structure is the residential building. The yellow and with a bigger footprint would be a potential commercial building, for example, an office building. And in the developer's analysis, they would both be about the same height. And if you put this aside and just look at the alternatives that our code provides, massing-wise, a commercial building could be very similar to a residential building. Of course, different uses have different impacts, and those impacts are what the neighbors may deal with. I'm going to leave this recommended motion up. As you can see, it's only half a recommendation. It's missing a lot of things. I'm leaving that to you to fill that with meaning. But as a staff member, my recommendation to you is, depending on, as a body, on your view of the world, you have to decide what's the overriding criterion you see for your community here in Midvale? Is it the production of more residential opportunities for people? I mean, we know, if you look at our general plan, which was completed in 2016, that actually since then, our housing prices have doubled. No one's salary has, but the housing prices have. So an objective observer would probably say production of housing is a worthy community goal. Of course, everyone who lives in this area also has an interest in this. They're impacted by whatever happens on this parcel. And in your mind, you would need to also judge, are the impacts of this worth the additional benefit? What's the cost-benefit analysis? Then another side note for you at this stage in the application, there isn't anything that ties the developer to this concept. We've had a situation where the state law just recently changed and potentially allows the use of a development agreement, which happens in front of the city council, really. With a development agreement, if there's a nexus between what the developer wants and what the city wants, one could have a development agreement that's attached to this application, and then we know for sure if this gets approved, the zone change gets approved, then this particular development will be built. So it's one of the tools, I would say, in your quiver that you can think about if you want to. You don't need to. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Gwendolyn, will it impact future cases that come before development? I know when we change things, sometimes it bites us. And I'm not sure I like that blanket, okay, we change this, and what else does it impact?
I will say something, and then I will look at the city attorney to maybe correct me.
Like that.
So when you approve a zone change, as I said, you make a recommendation to the city council, and then the city council, as the legislative body, can enact this change, and it's based on their argument, their finding why this zone change is a good idea, and that can be very individualized for an area. So in this case, I don't believe you would set some type of a precedent that would say each time someone comes with an application for the RCRO overlay that you would have to approve it.
Okay.
That's correct, yes. This is a legislative decision where in your case, obviously, it's really just a recommendation to the city council. It's not binding in any way. But obviously, they value your input. And then the city council, if they make the zone change, obviously creates permanent change for the property in that zone, but not necessarily for any others. I mean, it could create momentum for zone changes, but any future zone changes would require a similar process where it would go through you, then to the city council, and again, where it is a legislative decision, none of it would be binding or required in any way.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Any other questions for Gwendolyn?
Not at this time.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Is the applicant here, Adam Paul? You'd like to come forward and add anything to this? What Gwendolyn has presented?
Hi, welcome. Thanks for having me. Gwendolyn, thank you very much. We just want to highlight a few things that Wendell brought up. We think that the property is an excellent opportunity for providing housing in the community. We think it's a great location where there will be opportunities for walkability for the tenants to get to shopping and workplaces, things like that. We develop what we call institutional quality apartment projects and commercial projects where there's always a full-time property management company involved, so that there's always parking that's being monitored, there's always doors locked, cameras, things like that. It's very important for the management of our properties to have that. Let's see, we showed that last exhibit for a reason where we're willing to do a building within the envelope of the existing zoning. So in other words, if the existing zoning were to be left and another project like an office building were to be proposed on this project, it would probably be, or could likely be, much more imposing, have another or greater impact than what we're proposing from a massing standpoint. We can talk about the differences of how an office building versus a residential building impact the environment. But that was the intent of showing that. And to Wendell's point, because that would be within the restrictions, or be well within the restrictions of the zone we're asking for, we're very much open to this idea of coming to terms about agreeing to, well, if you'll set it back this far off of that, particularly on the eastern side of the property where most of the community is concerned about an encroaching building with, we're very open and willing to talk about those kind of things if it makes a difference in the approval of the project. So there were some other items that came up, I think, that I'll just briefly address. One of the big concerns that we think we heard and we are still very open to addressing is that parking could be an issue, traffic could be an issue. I'll mention too that the office building that could be built there right now would require 2 to 2.5 times more parking than the apartment project does, just by the nature of what office buildings require for parking. So we actually think it's a less impactful development for parking and traffic to go this direction as well. So we tried to, after our first application, modify and kind of make this thing less impactful and more acceptable, and hopefully it's a win-win for everybody. Open to any questions that you may have of me.
I've got a question. Fendelin highlighted the option of the city council and you to enter into a developer agreement. Is that something you would be willing to consider?
Absolutely. That's what I was trying to allude to when we said we're showing a building that's well within the restrictions of the boxes, if you will, that would be allowed under the current zone and even the new zone, and we'd be willing to work with kind of tying down, if you will, what we're proposing at this point. Now, we're only coming in for a zone change at this point. We're not proposing a specific project, but through encouragement of the city and even the process, the application wanted to see a concept plan, and so we're showing a concept plan, and we don't want to get the cart before the horse, so to speak, where we're designing the project so specifically before we even have a zone change. But the zone does require certain parking. It requires certain safety, certain fire access, things like that. And then if there's anything outside of the zoning that the city would like us to consider to be make the project more palatable, we're absolutely willing to enter into a development agreement.
Thank you.
I realize that it's just the concept that we're seeing, but 7 Stories impacts the residents around big time, because that wasn't there before. We all remember the office building there. And when you talk about office building, you're talking weekdays. You're not talking nights, weekends, all that kind of stuff. An office building doesn't do that. Where your residents 24/7, tons of traffic, office, you're not going to have that. So you can't, that's the apples and oranges right there. That's a big difference.
Yeah, where I was trying to make apples compared to apples was in the size of the building that could be on the property. How we've scaled the size of our building way back compared to what an office building on the project could be, and parking count. So an office building that would be built to the maximum allowable size on the property based on the current zoning would require 2 to 2.5 times as many parking spaces. And I agree with you, there's different traffic patterns between an office building and an apartment building, and different times of days people are there, aren't there. But just as a point of reference, that there could be times of the day where traffic is twice as much than it would be if it were an apartment building. That's what I was referencing there. And I agree with you 100% that offices and apartment buildings aren't used by their tenants the exact same way.
Okay, thanks.
I appreciate your willingness and that you took some of the suggestions in and kind of redesigning your concept plan. And we appreciate that, listening.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I just wanted to point out before we open for public comment, we did receive a letter that was very well very good, and with everybody signing it, almost everybody. So we just yeah, it's very well written and respectful, and we appreciate that. So with that, we'll open the public comment, public hearing portion of this application. And again, if you have a spokesperson, that would be great. We have read your letters, so we don't want to get into just a replay of everything. But if you have a spokesperson, have them come up. If there's something specific that you feel you need to, you're welcome to come. But again, limit your comments to about 3 minutes. And please state your name when you...
My name is Edward Kimball.
And will you pull that microphone closer to you?
Sure, how's that?
They're just...
Yeah. I live in Essex Court. I've lived in Essex Court for 31 years. I've been on the management committee of Essex Court for about 25 of those years. I basically know everybody in Essex Court. We're a community of 72 townhomes that spread through there. There are approximately 134 people that live in Essex Court that will be directly impacted by the building of this apartment complex, okay? And I realize that doing the rezoning does not make a commitment that there will be an apartment complex. But what we see in the proposal is the apartment complex, and we've seen the changes that have been made. And even with those changes, when you start to think about traffic, when was the last time you drove down 9th East from 6600 South to 7200 South between 4:30 and 5 o'clock and tried to make a left turn to go southbound?
You don't.
Thank you. The opposite happens too, because you'll have traffic going northbound. That's just one issue. The other issue, and I point this out in our response, where the entrance and exit are indicated on the parking for this building feed right into our easement, okay? Essex Court was built 45 years ago. The easement we had was done in 1978. So we've had that easement before this office building was built that burned down, or the building to the north where Sovereign Financial is. So adding 200 plus cars trying to get in and out of there in the morning or coming back in the evening with the traffic, that's a major concern for us. Not only that building, the height of it, and blocking the view we've got. 2 stories was fine. We worked well with the folks that owned that building for years, as well as Sovereign. The other thing is around our community right now, if you take a look, It's mostly two-story. You drive up 9th East, the tallest building going in that corridor is 3 stories tall. And now we're talking about going 7. So you've got this building standing out, okay, breaking up what's going on 9th East. And I think another thing important to note, there is no public transportation down 9th East in that corridor. The closest public transportation is on 7200 South, east and west, and 6600 South, east and west, from 9th East West, and then the 209 goes north into Salt Lake. So that's another detriment to why, if there was public transportation, maybe it would lessen some of the traffic and everything, but the total impact of this building and what it'll have on our community and the surrounding communities, we're against that. We're against the whole process of doing a rezone. We would rather it stay the way it is and work something else out. We don't think that's a viable option. There are other viable options, we believe, and we've stated them in our letter that should be looked at. Okay?
Any questions? Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I drove through your complex last night.
Oh, you did?
Very well maintained.
You should have
Very
waited till
beautiful
next week
area.
when we mowed the lawn.
Well, I was gonna lay on the horn as I drove through, so you knew I was there. But very well maintained and a very beautiful community. So we appreciate you taking care of your homes.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dennis Poole. I'm an attorney, and I wrote a letter on behalf of my client, KME LLC, and Sovereign Financial Group, which is the owner and the operator of the property immediately to the north of this project. I'm going to apologize, first of all, for some of the grammatical concerns in my letter. I got this assignment yesterday about noon, so it was really put together rather fast. You know, I want to, again, maybe state that we all are concerned about the extremes that are possible here. We know that this is just a map amendment, but what we see on these overlays and these conceptual drawings are maybe the extremes. We understand that based upon the current zoning or even maybe the overlay that there's another process here. It could be the development agreement that you referred to. It could be conditional use permits, as I understand your zoning. Didn't have, again, a lot of time to look at the depth of it, but all of that process could make this less impactful. But that doesn't excuse this body or the city from following its zoning ordinances and following the requirements for a change in zone or the map. And I wanted to speak to that as I did in the letter. I don't think that the applicant has satisfied those requirements. If you read from section 18-3-1, paragraph E, it says that changes in the zone or rezoning of land are to be discouraged and allowed only under the limited circumstances described. That discouragement means, in essence, that we follow the master plan. And should there be any conflict with the master plan, we have to find reasons to change it. The master plan doesn't provide for an overlay for this area. It already has a zoning designation for this area. So the question in my mind is, why do we need this overlay except to expand the density, the height, the uses that were not really contemplated by the master plan? Let's look at the requirements. And again, the gentleman here, the planning director, had those 3 requirements that have to be looked at in terms of a change in zoning. The first one, and it's important to read the whole requirement. The proposed rezoning is necessary either to comply with the general plan, proposed land use map. That's inapplicable here because it's not consistent with the land use general plan. Or provide land for a community need that was not contemplated or not anticipated at the time of the adoption of the general plan. The use of this property clearly was not contemplated to be used at the time of the general plan, but the general plan adopted by this city does have a contemplation of how this city develop its housing. So the first category then of this requirement for a change is not satisfied because the issue of housing in Midvale was part of the plan. And that plan did not contemplate an overlay for this particular property. So it's the first category simply does not get satisfied. What we're doing here is trying to expand this opportunity zone beyond what already exists. And that's a change in the master plan. The second requirement is that the existing zoning was either the result of a clerical error or mistake. Well, everybody acknowledges that this is not present here. There was no mistake. This was a conscious effort to make a zone which the property currently has. The third category is then the land or its surrounding envisions has changed or is changing to such a degree that it is in the public interest to encourage redevelopment. Now, admittedly, a fire was a change. But that is not the kind of change that is anticipated, because if we had a fire in every single instance that justified a change in zoning, people start burning their buildings down to get a zoning change, probably. And that's not what's really contemplated. We have to look at the area as a whole. You know, there is an office building for the physicians that was just approved and being finished out up the street. That's consistent with an office building that was there before. That's not a change in the use of the area. There are no other anomalies, if you will, in this area that suggest that there's a change in the property in this area. So we need to give legitimate buyers an opportunity to develop, again, a replacement office building which is consistent with the community there. We don't need to look at a different change just because one property owner is unfortunate enough to have a fire. Hopefully it was insured, hopefully they could rebuild an office building, and obviously that's authorized. The other thing I would like to discuss just briefly, if I could, is the considerations for this regional commercial residential overlay zone, the RCRO. As I looked at the statement of those considerations, this property simply does not apply or comply with those requirements. As this body probably knows much better than any of us out here, that particular zone is utilized when there is a large mass of property owners and they're going through some change in the feelings of the community, and you're using the power of government here to encourage this mass development. You have that kind of overlay zone, as I understand it, from State Street and 7200 extending east to 7th East. And you can see the results of that overlay. You're encouraging housing along that corridor. Even there, however, all your housing is limited to 3 stories in height. I drove down that street before coming to this particular meeting. What we've got here is a situation where one property owner is asking this overlay now to enhance one particular property. He's not even discussing that in the context of what it's going to do to the rest of your opportunity zone further to the south, the shopping center. So it really doesn't meet that criteria. If you go through and read the criteria of that opportunity area, it's always discussed in terms of and I think I put these in my letter, regional commercial shopping. This is not part of a regional commercial shopping center. It's not part of multiple developments. It's a single development. It's not existing parcels. It's one parcel we're talking about here. It's not trying to encourage pedestrian traffic among developments. It's simply, again, an examination of one particular property. And so it's inappropriate to simply think that we satisfy those 3 requirements of changing the map here when it doesn't comply with the very criteria that you're talking about. Again, my business is representing developers. I'm pro-development. We all like to see new buildings and new things, and yes, there's the vacant piece of ground there, and it's unfortunate somebody lost their building to fire. But that does not, again, excuse us from making the right decision according to the rules so we can rely upon those. And yes, precedent does matter, because if you ignore the rules once, Somebody's gonna say, I want you to ignore the rules twice or 3 times. So don't ignore the rules. Do not make a recommendation for this zoning change because it doesn't comply. And please make that recommendation, or the absence of a recommendation, for the benefit of these people here behind me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, if you state your name.
My name is Emmy Cordano, and I am a property owner, homeowner in Essex Court. First of all, I'd like to know that each of you have actually read our letter from Essex Court, and it was a 9-page letter. It wasn't a 2-page letter.
I spent my afternoon yesterday
More than
reading
once.
through everything
Can
and the zone.
I get this side's
and-
acknowledgement as well, please?
Yes.
Okay. Yes? You are our representatives. You're not the developer's representatives. I don't know where he lives or where he comes from, but he probably doesn't live in Midvale. Because if he did, he probably wouldn't be making this recommendation. I am begging you, each one of you, some of you are looking around like you're not even interested in what people are saying here. These are our homes. This entire area is going to be decimated by a 7-story building. There is nothing right now in Midvale that I have found that is 7 stories. Are you aware of that? Are you aware that the buildings on the south side are 5 stories? Are you aware that the buildings at Union Heights are 5 stories? This is 2 stories higher. How do we go from nothing to 7 stories? And him proposing that this is okay. Never mind Mr. Poole's arguments regarding the first set of criteria. They haven't even met the second set of criteria. And I have to sit here and listen to a planning director saying, well, some of them are fulfilled and some of them are not. When at the end of number 6 of 7 criteria, it says and. So if you are going to even consider this, you have to consider the first 3 criteria, which, as Mr. Poole so eloquently indicated, are not even met. Plus, you have to consider this has to meet all 7 of the second criteria. And your own planning director has told you that some of them are met and some aren't, without even going over which have been met and which haven't. So I don't know how you guys can even be asked to make a decision on the kind of conjectural issues. The way the issues have been handled has been completely conjectural. And I'm looking at a building that is going to completely affect my unit. It's going to cut out all the sunlight. It's going to affect the noise. One of the reasons that I purchased in this community is because even though it is close to a commercial zone, it is like an oasis. And this building is going to completely change the nature of that oasis. That oasis has been here for 45 years. Apparently, there is some sort of changing going on, and an opportunity area in the general plan is expected to change in the future. This area hasn't changed in 45 years. Our community has not changed in 45 years. So even if we look at the necessity for housing, are the new apartment buildings that were built south of Fort Union, for some reason they called it North Union, they didn't even know like what direction they were in. that occupancy is not even at capacity. So we need another 7-story building to be empty, or to be 60% empty? I don't think so, right? Those apartments on South Union, called North Union, are about $3,000 for a 2-bedroom. Who's going to pay that much for a 2-bedroom in an apartment building? Right? My 3-bedroom in Essex was rented for $2,000. So how is it that they can come in, put up a 7-story building, and charge a minimum of $3,000 for a 2-bedroom, landing up in a windfall to the developer of $300,000 a month on a very conservative, minimal calculation? It is mind-boggling to me that we are even considering the zone change, given how little information, how little studies. Oh, so 900 East now is a major highway and it belongs to UDOT? So then how do you guys even have the jurisdiction to affect what happens on 9th East? I don't see UDOT here tonight. Are they here?
Not that I'm aware of.
Where are they, Mr. City Attorney? Where is UDOT? So how can you make a change?
Are you about done? Your
Yes.
time is about done.
I think I'm done, but it
We
appears that
appreciate
you
your
want me to be
comments.
done. So I would just honestly really beg you guys to put yourselves in our position and to not recommend that this go forward on any level. And a comparison to putting in a commercial building versus a residential building is pure conjecture. How dare they even bring that up? So now they're going to intimidate us with an even bigger building? I don't think so.
I'd just like to remind you guys that we're members of the community as well, and so like we're here to listen to you and entertain what you have to say. So we would expect the same respect that we're giving you.
I live by the North Union, South Union, so.
We are putting a 3-minute timer up, so everybody has a chance to make their comments.
Okay. All right. Thank you. My name's Samuel Kingor. I live at 985 East Essex Court Way, Unit 1. Homeowner there, and I have not normally attended a lot of these except on the other side, on the developer side, with the support of developers, because I'm an architect, think architecture. Done many projects like this and, have had many restrictions put on projects, but I don't ever see them as restrictions. I see this as a collaborative process, a joint process. Every time it appears to be a restriction, it's going to benefit everyone in the end, because that's how we can all come together and make a great project. And, the only difference is I'm feeling much more emotional about this because I'm living there and it impacts me. And I still feel, and I see in the presentation that has occurred here, that it seems to be focused on this lot rather than the context. We are very uniquely contained in Essex Court, different than other locations. I don't feel the process has completely been considered for the unique situation. I think the process is incomplete. Best would be to hold and defer this rather than continue, because it's just not at all in consideration of of what's actually there. So I described in my second letter that I sent, that despite what the zoning says, the physical buildings there in Essex Court are just 2-story, look like single-family homes. We're all packed close together. The impact is actually, in my opinion, greater than it is in a single-family community. We're going to be facing a 7-story, whatever project it is, office or residential. And, in the residential overlay, that says 160-foot setback. Where is that? How does that make a project viable? Certainly not been presented. I do not feel that all the exhibits you've seen are valid. I don't believe that yellow box that says commercial. It's not following the property line. It just makes one giant box. It's not totally accurate, in my opinion. You know, accuracy and truth and facts are important to review prior to making any decision. To be impartial and try and move forward, we need to have all of the facts stated and presented and reviewed. I just don't see that happening. I want to see it happen. And I would think, you know, a workshop environment could be proposed to join the community and developer together to work on possible solutions. That I would find productive in this case because this is a little different than others. So I see my time's up. Respectfully, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Just one thing, that no decision has been made. This is just being brought forward. And I would like to let you know that the co-chair and myself met with city staff yesterday. And my question is what's your recommendation? They wouldn't give me any answer. They says, this is your decision. So this is our body. We'll make a recommendation to the city. If it's a negative recommendation, the city could say yes, because they're the ultimate decider on this. And so no decision has been made. This is just looking at potential and if it fits. So
and I will share, I had the experience of being in your seat, and they told me no, and the city council said yes. So that's a personal experience.
Go ahead and start my time. I'm Colleen Arrington. I'm from Fair Meadows. I would like to point out that my comments are based on the standard of home ownership having the right to peaceful enjoyment. Okay? That's a basic. I am a homeowner. I'm not a renter. I am a homeowner. I live in a community of people who we work together to have a peaceful yet lightly dense population. The volume of traffic that has increased since the 10 years ago that I moved in it's exponential. My ride here, getting on to 9th East, I was only allowed in because someone kind allowed me to pop in. And that doesn't happen just at rush hour. It's increasing. I didn't realize that 9th South was considered a freeway. It's surprising to me. The condos on where RC Willie used to be, they're moving in. Do you know how many cars are going to be coming? There is no mass transit directly there. It will create gridlock all day long. And I am 8 homes in and a road, and I can smell the exhaust and can hear motorcycles through the night, okay? That's not peaceful enjoyment, but that's part of living in a highly populated state. I ask you please to put people, residents, not apartment renters, that are mobile, I live there, over profit, that profits outside our community. I can hear the traffic, and you can't actually quantify quality of life, but that's what we need to do because we have the right to peaceful enjoyment in our homes that we own.
Thank you.
How are you tonight?
If you'd state your name.
My name is Kathy Toffer, and I believe you have something written from me. Mm-hmm. I don't think Bonnie's here tonight, but she said she was going to forward my email to you.
Yes.
I am the president or the chairperson of Fair Meadows Condominium Homeowners Association. Colleen lives in my community and just voiced her opinion. I won't take up much of your time, but I do want to put forth some more points that haven't been addressed really, and that is, how is the infrastructure going to be when 200 more units pop into our central location? When that building burned down in 2019, the fire department had to come into our community and take all of our water out of our fire hydrants in order to put the fire out. And one guy in the A plexus, which is clear down on 7th East, couldn't even brush his teeth. So I'm just saying that you've got a problem if you're going to allow 200 more units in there. Not to mention, like Colleen said, the traffic is horrendous. It doesn't matter day or night when you go out there. You have a problem getting out onto 9th East from our property. Because of that, about 7 years ago, we fenced off and got permission to gate our community. And the reason being is people were cutting in through Fair Meadows, going out onto 7th East so that they didn't have to go all the way down to 7200 South to go right or left. And so we stopped that traffic and caused more of a problem going back and forth now. Also, the building down on South Union that was mentioned in earlier is a huge apartment complex. I looked at it today on my screen and I couldn't even get the whole building on the computer. It was so big. I don't know how many units are in there, but the county has a zoning in there of residential, which I don't know how that happened because it's probably okayed there. But having that there, I looked at the county's traffic information. It says very heavy. It's on a highway, and those people all access 9th East. So going north or south, those people are going to have to come and go along with everybody else. You're going to put a 7-story building in front of Essex Court that's going to look down over the Essex Court. They're never going to see a sunrise or sunset again. I'm sorry. They're just not going to see it. And the way that they've configured it, it needs to be changed, and the parking especially. I don't think that we want a beacon of a 7-story building in all of that lower area to have that standing up right there as a monument of an apartment complex. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Zachary Lavelle. I'm a recent move into Essex Court a couple years ago now. I probably have some of the closest experience to living in apartment complexes than a lot of people do. We actually lived up the street at Parkview, and a big issue that apartment complexes always tend to have is parking. They always undervalue how much parking space they're going to need. They always are busting at the seams. They're driving around always looking for different spots and stuff like that. And I believe a big concern would be people would be parking on 9th East. Just straight on the road where it's always hard to turn right into our easement as is when someone's parked there, because you never know where to dive in or trying to get out of traffic when everyone else is trying to go 45 behind you. And then a big concern would be like them parking in our complex and how to control that, and what apartments, you know, trying to deal with management and stuff like that would also be very difficult. So I just want to make sure that that was in your minds as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Megan Theorine. I'm a resident at Essex Court, and I just want to bring another perspective. I'm a teacher, so my first thought when we heard that this plan might be going up is Hillcrest High is right down the road, and I know teenagers. I've been working with them for 15 years, so if you remember being a teenager, you tend to think that you're invincible. So one of the things that I have when I go to work every day is I drive right past Hillcrest, and I'm really worried because there's always kids, teens, walking through there. They don't know how to use the crosswalks properly. You've got a bunch of kids that are just getting their licenses, and they don't always know how to drive safely. So I want you to consider the teenagers around there, the kids, especially if we add more residents. We're going to have more families that are going to be using that school, and we just want to keep everybody safe. So,
Thank you.
My name is John Taylor. I'm not a resident of Midvale. I do own property in Midvale. I appreciate the time and the consideration the council or the commission is giving this. And I know this is an emotional issue for the residents next door. I've been in real estate for over 40 years, or nearly 40 years, and worked with all kinds of projects. Currently, I work with many developments, but also infill projects. The market in Salt Lake, in the valley, has changed dramatically. We're in need of additional apartment units. We're in need of additional single-family homes. We're in need of more Essex courts. It's a beautiful project. I agree with that. The current zoning does allow for office there. Office is parked at 5 per 1,000 if it's done correctly. They all come and go at the same time of day. It is different, but those times of day, it's really a bad time. That's one thing to consider. Retail is not in demand at that location for big box and stores. You have the family center just down the street. We're well served on retail needs. What is in demand, and it would be consistent with zoning, is drive-throughs, fast food, drink places. Those will add that traffic, and they're not the best neighbors. I've looked at this plan. I'm working with the owners of the property currently, want their view, their property rights considered as well, because they do have the right to develop it. The overlay is specific to add enforcement to the code. It doesn't just grant developers all these new rights. It actually gets the city more rights to enforce special things such as parking requirements. And parking isn't always an issue around apartments. I understand that. The city needs to stripe those areas, keep it out of there, and police that. So do the owners of the complex. The plan's generally consistent with the general plan. The overlay adds those things, but I wanted the council, or the commission, to understand the property owner's rights in this as well. They have a vacant parcel of ground that is zoned for commercial uses, and those uses will take time, but they will happen. Office will not be built right now to that standard because of the current market. Apartments, multifamily, townhouses, single family are very well needed in its entire valley. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? Okay.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Armstrong. I am a homeowner at Essex Court, and I'll be quick. I called around today to a bunch of apartment buildings and rental listings within 1 mile of the proposed overlay, and there are more than 70 currently vacant apartments, townhomes, and houses available for rent. Again, within 1 mile, not within like just Midvale generally. There are several hundred of those. But yes, within 1 mile, there are more than 70, and that's just the ones I could verify. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Seth Hancock. We live in the same home. A little bit of a different perspective that I think would be valuable, because obviously emotions are high. It's a very tense thing. There's a very simple analogy I can think of with this. As someone with a mechanical engineering background, if you have a circuit in your home and you plug in a heater, you plug in a fan, you turn on your dryer, you have all these appliances, but you have the same wire going into the wall. There's a safety mechanism in your home that all homes have. It's a breaker. It flips to keep that home, wires don't heat up, the home doesn't burn down. We have one road that leads into our place. You're going to overload the circuit. And it might be a little on the nose as a metaphor for, that caused your home to burn down. We have a massive 5/2 being built. How long is it going to take to get all of that done? And we're going to have to pay for enforcement for parking and all this. But in addition to, they didn't think about the rules of what they need to do to be able to put this in place. how long is it going to take for them to actually make sure that the building's built and up to code? How long is it going to take for this 5/2 to get fire prevention installed? Do we know why the last building burnt down? Are they just churning development? Because if that new building's insured, I mean, they don't have to worry about it. They get the money and they can leave. But I think putting a breaker in might be prudent when considering whether we should build a 5/2 in the middle of a residential townhome environment, especially when we have such open land down the road where we used to have RC Willie, and there's plenty of space everywhere else that they could do it. Just doesn't seem very thought out. Like if you were going to hire a contractor instead of an actual person to come work on your home like an electrician, just because he's got a truck doesn't mean I trust him to replace the breakers in my home. I want to make sure it's thought out and considerate, and it's not just, well, if we can get this development done, that's done, and this quarter we made money, and next quarter, well, we'll worry about that later. I would like a sustainable, well thought out, and actually serves the community, and make sure that we're not just pushing the buck down the road to the next group of people who have to live here. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, thank you. Do we have a motion to?
I'm gonna give it one more second.
Can we have
One last chance. Okay.
I move that we close the public hearing portion.
second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. We appreciate your comments. Like I said, I drove through your community, and one thing I noticed is you have parking. Oh, good, because I was saying there seemed to be plenty of visitor parking and stuff where some of those communities are pretty sparse, so I love your community.
So I want to address something, I heard all of the comments, I was listening, but I do take issue with the assumption that homeowners have a greater right to living in a peaceful community than a renter. I do not accept that premise, and I will not. I'm just laying that out there now.
Can we hear from our attorney real quick?
Well,
First, tell me about the easement. How does that come into this?
I haven't looked into the access easement. There's alleged to be an easement. I believe there's an easement. As long as there's access to that property, my assumption is that the easement is fine. If there isn't sufficient access, then that's an issue between the two parties, between the HOA and the homeowners and the property, the frontage property owner. What other questions do you have?
Just the access.
So many.
Yeah. What do you got?
Before we get too further, I'd like to give the developer an opportunity to add anything to any of the comments that have been made, if you'd like to come forward.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's comments, and I understand again too that this is personal for a lot of people, and we are here, to work with everybody in good faith. We want to do what's best for everybody, including ourselves. Everybody has interests here, but let me address a few of the concerns that I think that came up. Again, we're here requesting or asking for a zone change, and not necessarily having thought through all the details of the project yet, like how an easement might need to be addressed, or how fire safety and suppression while we're under construction may need to be addressed. That'll be a very detailed plan that we will go through and do. We are, we don't want to build a project that nobody likes and that isn't successful, because we're in it to have be in a community building and successful environment. We don't want an empty building. We do very complex market studies that show there's great need for housing in this community. There may be, some units available for rent right now, but as a percentage of the overall housing market and what's for rent, it's a very small percentage that's available. And the more that's available, the less expensive housing can become. Let's see, the parking and traffic issue. UDOT is the one in charge of Ninth East and making sure that it flows well. And they have their studies and they have their concerns, and that would be part of the detailed process no matter what project comes through. If we come through with an office building someday for development, if we come through with this apartment development, UDOT will weigh in. They'll say, we'd like your traffic to flow this way more or that way more to minimize the impact of the traffic. And, we did show that there was this current zoning that allows for a bigger building that would require more housing, more parking, only as an exhibit. We didn't intend to. Someone said we were trying to threaten with that. We're not trying to threaten. We're just trying to show that we're trying to work with everybody here to minimize what we call the impacts of this development in the area. Let's see. I think that's everything we wanted to address. We've done a study that shows also that we could show that the building we've designed being set back 40 to 50 feet further from the Essex Court east property line actually really reduces the amount of visibility that would cause light visibility or even what people could see or not see from being pushed back that far. So I hope that makes sense and we could pass that around and show that, but we're trying to design a building that has minimal impact. We're open again to agreeing to certain things that would, and I keep using this term, minimize impact and kind of be a cooperative event in coming to a development here. A development agreement might be appropriate, and we could certainly look at how all these items could be addressed in that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, discussion.
When I was reading about this, the current zoning allows for height to 45 feet. That's incorrect. What's the current zoning height maximum?
So the current zone, the RC zone, allows, I believe, 75 feet. If you look, there are some spacing requirements, but those only take if the adjoining properties are in a single-family residential zone. So that may be the disconnect.
Thank you.
Doesn't the overlay just increase that to 85?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, it makes it a multi-use and makes it residential.
I'm disappointed that UDOT. I really am. It's kind of, that impacts a lot of people when we're talking about Hillcrest. I live right there.
Yeah.
Traffic is horrible. And I think, and for the safety of the kids, and then you think about how does this all impact our schools? That would mean this building would definitely impact Hillcrest, student-wise. Are our classes so minimum that we now think we ought to add 200 more kids to, I don't know, I'm just throwing stuff out. It impacts a lot more than we think it does.
One thing that I look at is the overlay was designed for Fort Union. And this is close to Fort Union, but it is further away, and I just don't feel, I feel like we're pounding a square peg in a round hole, and we're trying to make this overlay work, and I keep thinking back to Center Square, apartments on Center Street. Everybody was very emotional about that, and it led to a lot of zone changes where they had to have setbacks They could only go so high if they were this close to residential, and then this high, and they could go higher the further they were away. And so I'm just not sure this zone accommodates for any of that. And so, I think if we're going to apply this zone, we need to relook at the zone and see if this really fits to be used as an overlay for additional property, because I just don't, again, it's a square peg in a round hole, and it's just not fitting for me.
I would present a different thought on it. I agree with the premise. I am a proponent of housing where it makes sense. I believe this area, it does make sense. It is close to a lot of amenities I wish I was closer to. And even walkable, it might be a bit dangerous right now, but it's near an opportunity area where we anticipate change happening, where it may not be as commercial as it has been for the last 4 decades. I agree with, I appreciate wanting to keep options open as a developer, being commercial and residential, great of both worlds. We'll see what pencils out and what serves us as a developer. I can definitely understand that. You have a lot more options with an overlay rather than changing the use to something like a mixed use. That has completely different requirements, completely different goals. And maybe that's more in alignment with being adjacent to this opportunity zone of 7200 South. So I agree that housing would be an excellent, has a very healthy place for this property. I don't know if this is the best way to go about doing it. I feel like it's giving away a lot more control that I think it would behoove the city to have over this area. Yeah, those are my thoughts. I think there's another mechanism that has a bit more restrictions and might be kind of an in-between spot that doesn't max out, or, because it gets scary. That diagram of the orange and the yellow was scary, and I felt like it was a bit misleading. It's showing the max opportunity, and that's what a developer will do, max opportunity. Of course, because they're putting their money behind it. So I'm a bit conflicted because I definitely feel the passion. I live very near here, and I believe conditions have absolutely changed. Building office space is not viable. We look at our master plan, it was done in 2016. Lots has changed in 2016. I mean, where was Hoppers was there 5 years ago, right? Right in that intersection. So understanding that things have changed, but we all understand change differently. Building office space right now, I would not want to do that. If I had millions of dollars to invest, I don't think commercial would be it. So those are my thoughts.
Yes, Isabella, what do you think?
Yeah, I just feel like that the overlay zone, if we want to use that for this property, I think we need to revisit that overlay and see if we need to change that zone in some ways. One of the things that I don't like is that we talk about single-family residences, and our code is built towards single-family residences, but Essex Court is considered a multifamily residence. But it's, in my mind, it's close to a single-family residential area. And so I feel like these townhomes and stuff, I feel like they should be given some of the same considerations as single-family residences because they're impacted just as much as a single family. I feel, and so that's why I'm concerned about using this overlay as that overlay stands now for this area, because I just think there needs to be some mitigating things, and I think maybe that whole overlay needs to be reworked and, for potential moving, because there are residences on the back of all that, and how do you help mitigate in the future too for everything, because it's not just this property that could use that overlay, but there's going to be others. And so if we're going to use this overlay for neighboring properties, I think we need to revisit the zone and see if there's something better that can be done. Because it just doesn't, the zone as it stands, the overlay zone as it stands, I just feel like was designed for a different place and a different space. So that's my 2 cents.
It was about 5 cents.
Sorry.
We didn't put you on a timer.
Oh, yeah, I know, sorry. And I'm repeating myself too.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's more palatable to like a member of the community like myself with a developer agreement and like maybe greater cooperation between the parties involved. That's mine as a non-voting member here today.
Yeah, I think definitely a development agreement would be important for this, but.
I mean, so as a recommendation to City Council, my inclination right now is to not recommend, but with some notes about why. I feel that will help. No, you don't think so? Rob?
I don't think it's required.
It's not required.
Well, they'll
but
have
could it
our
be
comments.
Yeah, they'll have our comments. It's on the record. But I'm just wondering, as a gesture, that we have reasons why.
Obviously, we have reasons why, and like,
everyone's reasons
yeah,
why.
and I mean, it is in the record. I don't know that we need to say, I personally don't want this because ABC, and that's what it's going to turn into. So you need to be careful of that.
Right.
Yeah. All right, well.
Can we pull up that screen?
And like you said, I'm not opposed to multifamily in that area. It's just, I think the overlay zone does not fit.
Let me make a recommendation.
Well, and just keep in mind that you do need to make a finding for whatever you recommend. I get not listing a number of them, but at least one finding.
So if I said I move that we recommend denial of the zone map amendment to add the regional commercial residential overlay zone to a property located at 7001 South 9th East with the following findings. It doesn't meet the criteria. It doesn't meet 1, it doesn't meet 3, it doesn't meet 6, 7, whatever you want. It doesn't meet the criteria.
You can state that the finding you propose for your recommendation is that it does not meet the criteria as required for a zone change. And you can leave it at that.
That's what I said.
And it would be.
It doesn't meet the requirements to change for a zone change.
Do we need to put a timer on the motion?
I did my best.
I mean, it would be good to be specific in the findings, though. And to not leave it general, as in saying it doesn't meet the criteria, but which criteria does it not meet? And you can also, as part of the findings, is if as a body you have certain important points you want to get across, I mean, that can be part of the finding. You can also add, messages to the city council. For the city council members, it's really hard to glean what you as a body feel just from the body of the minutes. It's almost impossible. And you don't have to do this, but if there are things that you feel very strongly about with regard to this, then put it in there. It helps the communication with the council.
So how many numbers did we have?
We have,
We're put that back up.
Didn't we have? There was 1.
There's 10. There's 3 in the primary and 7 in the overlay.
So, just from the legal standpoint, There are three criteria in section 17.3.1, one of which needs to apply in order to make a zone change. As to the other criteria, those weren't gone into detail very much by Vendelin, and I don't think they're applicable at this stage anyway. They apply to a proposed development, and we're not faced with proposed development right now. We're just faced with a zone change. And so those are certainly future criteria that would be looked at were a conditional use permit or something like that to be something that you would approve in the future.
So I can say criteria, it doesn't
Yep,
mean right here.
these right here
Okay.
are the criteria that would
Got you.
apply.
Do I need to restate my motion then?
Well, I disagree. I mean, I believe 1 and 3 are met, but not with an overlay as a zone change. I would recommend a different zone change.
You better say it then.
Well, I don't want
Be
to
concise.
speak for me and not the group.
So, I think to keep things clear and crisp, if you want to keep debating and talking about it, that's great. As far as a motion goes, it would be helpful if we had a clean, crisp motion to vote on. And then go from there. If a motion is proposed and someone wants to amend it, they can do it that way. Yeah.
You don't think it meets 1? Okay.
I don't think it does. If I lived by there, I wouldn't think it was.
For the general plan purpose.
Not in that area, that's the problem.
I don't think.
I mean, it does say or, though. Does the second part of the or statement, you don't think it meets the provide land for a community need? That was not anticipated?
Yes and no, they're putting commercial, but they don't plan on building commercial out. I mean, the North Union's still vacant.
So, sorry to interject here one more time.
What do we need to say?
In order to make a zone change, you need to find that one of these applies.
Right.
It is an or. Having said that, in order to deny recommendation of a zone change, you don't need to find that none of them apply, right?
Okay.
It's within your discretion to say, we don't want this. We don't think that it appropriately provides the community need or whatever.
Okay.
So it's not a,
Either or.
yep, if you're gonna approve it, you don't approve it. If you're gonna recommend approval, you want to make findings of fact that at least one of these is satisfied. Otherwise, it's not necessary.
Okay.
Okay.
You got it, Robin?
You say it, so now I'm going to amend what I said.
You're going to start over again.
If it was on there, I could start over. But Vandelin keeps moving it.
He's being helpful.
You need to make this wireless. That's what I learned today.
If I had a laptop. Okay, I'm going to start over. I move that we recommend denial of the zone map amendment to add the regional commercial residential overlay zone to a property located at 7001 South, 900 East with the following findings. 17-3-1, criteria 1 and 3 are not met.
A second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Chair Licky,
What, do I vote yes that we deny it or no? Yeah, I always get confused on these. What am I?
Yes to the no.
If you want to recommend denial,
Yes to
vote
the
yes.
no. Yes, I vote denial.
yes? Okay. Vice Chair Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
Commissioner Kasparian.
Yes.
The motion
Okay,
is denied.
motion denied.
Yes.
Oh, motion passes. Yeah, for denial, yeah. Thank you for being here. If you would like to go home, you're welcome to. If you'd like to stay for the other ones, you're welcome to also.
It's always entertaining.
And again, we appreciate your respect. We appreciate your involvement.
Thank you for being here.
We really appreciate it, both from the developer and the community.
So,
And then if you could go outside in the hall to chat so we can continue our meeting.
Sorry about the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's take a break. No? No. Okay, our third motion action today is... Yeah. Well, I'm trying to get him to...
Could you guys vacate so we can finish our meeting? I'd like to go home.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's probably quiet enough.
Thank you.
Would you mind shutting those doors?
We can't.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Never mind.
Oh, it locks them? Okay.
Fire code, isn't it? Public?
Okay, our third action is an application from Mike Nilsson. He requested determination on the height and material for an enclosure of an outdoor storage area for automobiles at 6941 South Rivergate Drive in the Bingham Junction Riverwalk Overlay Zone. And Vendelin will be presenting the city.
Thank you. Most of you may know where this is. It's adjacent to Topgolf, not very far away from the Winco grocery store. And this structure was originally built by, can you hear me?
Sorta.
I can, but I don't think.
Yeah.
We could close one side. Can we close one side?
I think we can.
Just one?
You can leave, we have to leave that one open if we close that one.
One of them. Well, she just closed that one.
So that one has to stay open.
Yeah, that'd be the best.
Sorry.
Fire code.
Thank you.
We got the shush brigade out there.
Okay.
Well, it's hopefully quieter now. So this application is before you due to a provision in our code.
Sorry.
On the other side.
Okay.
Someone's trying to get in.
Yeah. I think you found the door. So this application is in front of you due to a provision in our code that requires, if there's a proposal for outdoor storage that's in the front or the side yard of a project, that it goes to the Planning Commission for a determination on the height of the enclosure and the material. Otherwise, this would have never reached you. It's an administrative process, and the use in and of itself is allowed in the zone. On the aerial image, I marked roughly where the enclosure is, or is proposed to be, just so that you have the aerial image underneath it and you can envision how it's going to change. Progressive Insurance, who was the original developer of this site and also occupied it for a long time, actually already had, in a way, an outside storage area that was enclosed with a wrought iron fence that is see-through at this point in time. And this proposal is to change the enclosure a little bit, to make it a little larger, which means that the landscaping is going to disappear. So I'm going to switch back and forth here. The landscaping that you can see over here will be behind a wall, basically. And this is the applicant has a vehicle-related use, unique auto. They will basically store vehicles there, then bring them into the building in order to work on them. And their proposal to the Planning Commission is to build a precast concrete fence of a height of 7 feet. And your role is to say yay or nay to this proposal, 7-foot tall fence, precast concrete. If you see any reasons to have a different material or a different height, of course, you can propose that as the commission and make that finding that something should be different. And this is the recommended motion. Also, maybe as just a little bit of background, and that is in the staff report, the changes on the site do not bring it out of compliance with the underlying approval that was granted several years ago. So there's still enough landscaping, even though some of the landscaping is going to be taken away. And there is a percentage in the ordinance that cannot be exceeded for outside storage. And that's the case here. They are below that percentage.
I'm assuming they're doing this mostly for safety reasons. A see-through fence isn't going to be great if you've got cars parked.
Yeah, you can ask the petitioner. I mean, it's also a courtesy to the neighborhood, I believe. You know, you don't necessarily want to look at cars that, you know, need to be worked on.
I think it's an auto body shop that's moving in there, and so they want to keep their unsightly, not fixed cars out of the way. Okay, any questions for Wendelin? All right, is the applicant here? Mike Nelson, if you'd come forward, state your name and...
Mike Nielsen, Unique Auto Body. Any questions?
Do you own Unique Auto Body?
I do not, no.
Okay.
I'm the business operations manager for Unique Auto Body. I just handled all of the paperwork as the applicant and know all the information.
Good job, you got here.
You get yelled at by the owners and then you yell at everybody else.
Nobody yells at me.
Any questions for Mike?
Same question. Why not the wrought iron fence that was there? Why the cement?
Well, from a standpoint of security, right, and visibility, those are the two primary reasons. The code allows for a 6-foot fence, you know, at standard and opaque. So we just want to make it so that it's a less visible, which provides intrinsic security, right? Like, because people can't see what's behind there, as well as that just makes it a sound barrier as well, right? Like, that's the third primary reason.
Thank you.
Nice. And I'll just ask, because I know it came up maybe a year or two ago where we were talking about razor wire. I think that was in the clean industrial.
Yeah.
That was in the clean industrial zone, but you would have no ambition to do something like that.
Because you can't have it.
Correct.
Right. Right, it was a bit of a setup.
But just to
I'm
clarify.
If none of our locations that we are, you know, in development of have that type of design, we are looking to forward think automotive repair instead of taking the traditional thought of automotive repair, and bring it to a standard where people feel more comfortable and it's more accessible to users. You know, there are 1.2 cars per licensed driver in the state of Utah, and over 50% of the population is female. And we want to cater to that aspect of the demographic.
Sweet. Thank you.
Great. No questions.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, we'll open this up for public hearing. If anybody has anything to add to this, please state your name.
Hi there, how are you folks doing tonight? Let's see, I've got my notes here. Okay, so good evening to you, the Planning Commission, and to Mike Nilsson. Thank you for facilitating tonight's discussion. I am J. Stephen Leba on behalf of my father, Stephen Leba, and we are the owners of 6973 South Village River Lane, Unit C9, and was among the first to purchase at the Village River Condominium Complex. The market value of my third floor east-facing condo is $375,000. And I can remember a time when that got you a nice house on a hill. Access to the Jordan River walkway, open green space, and access to wildlife are reasons that make this neighborhood great for family. The area has undergone tremendous growth, and anchors like Winco and Topgolf have attracted ice cream parlors, restaurants, and children's activity centers. This is a very cute and very walkable neighborhood. I am here to address agenda item C for property owner Mike, or property business manager, Mike Nielsen's outdoor automotive storage facility request for determination on height and material for fencing. We do not have a full understanding of the intended business use. We just learned tonight that there's going to be an automotive repair shop. We don't have a full understanding of the proposed safety measures or precautions, the types of vehicles that could be stored there, or the value and condition of these vehicles. We know they're in disrepair, but we don't know how badly. We don't know what they're leaking. And we must exercise caution. I'd like to acknowledge the request for a fencing determination, because if it weren't for that, we wouldn't be here right now. And so sometimes that's when you get a little opportunity to do something big for the people that live in an area. An outdoor automobile storage lot is an attractive nuisance, as well as an eyesore. The facility would negatively affect property values by harming views for east-facing units on second and third floor units. And a fence of any height and material cannot remedy that. The short-term and long-term outdoor storage of any type of vehicle will create an adverse environmental impact. For the residents within the immediate vicinity, automobile fluids will be leaking from the vehicles and could affect the Jordan River and the wildlife that we're entrusted to protect. The proposed business is directly across from homes. Some families rent, but most are owners. An outdoor storage facility does not fit in with the neighboring businesses. This project just doesn't make sense for this area. As a homeowner, I oppose the outdoor automobile storage lot. This facility would create an attractive nuisance, negatively affect property values, create environmental issues, and it's an anomaly in the area. We do not have enough information for this project to proceed. I recommend that we place this project on hold until the property owner can present his project in full to the community, allowing for an open dialogue with the Q&A facilitated by the Planning Commission. Thanks.
Thank you.
I move that we close the public hearing portion.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, public hearing has now been closed. Would their applicant like to address any of his concerns? Give your rebuttal.
We appreciate the comments. The use is, as mentioned by Wendelin, is permitted within the code, and so the use of the facility is not up for debate at this point. This is a question about the fencing and the nature of it. If the commission decides to not recommend, we will investigate other options as far as fencing within the code guidelines, or keeping the existing facility the same as it is today as an outdoor storage area for vehicles in disrepair. So, thank
I have a couple questions. So, you're not a junkyard.
No.
So you're not keeping long-term junk cars that have been in accidents?
Our
correct?
intent is to take vehicles from consumers and return them to the state that they were in prior to the accident that incurred the damage, and to remove any vehicles that are beyond repair from our facility to junkyards.
So you've been there a little while.
No,
No.
we currently operate
just down the
on
Yeah.
798
Got you.
West
So
Center
this
Street.
is a new,
This would be a new facility within your
Okay, thanks.
boundaries.
How do you control the liquids?
The liquids inside the vehicle within the standards provided to us by government officials, right? There are regulations that we have to operate within, and there are, we hire a company to maintain a majority of that, Safety Clean, and to keep us within regulations and provide us with materials in order to clean those up.
Is there a cap on capacity? You know, how many cars you can have in that lot?
Within the 15%, we estimate probably 30 to 50, depending on the time, right?
In the outdoor storage?
In the
Or is that
outdoor
inside,
storage.
Outside, all?
Just within the fenced area, the 15% of the facility.
But with this proposed fence, you wouldn't see it from the street level.
Correct.
But perhaps a third level across the
Right.
street.
Potentially. We're open to a taller fence, right? We were trying to be within reason on that. If the facility or the group decides that a fence of 8 or 9 feet in height is more appropriate for that, then we would go that route, right? But we do believe that the material being asked for is the appropriate material, just structurally for that.
Okay, great.
Does that help?
Very helpful.
Yes, thank you. Attorney, comments?
Yes, so on this one, it should be treated fairly like an administrative decision. The legal standard that we're looking at is that the outdoor storage needs to be screened from public view. The minimum fence height is 6 feet. It can be higher if we determine it's necessary. The fence needs to be opaque, which is one of the reasons why the current fence is not adequate. If you find that those things are satisfied with their proposal, then I'd recommend that you should approve and otherwise deny.
Okay.
I think this is an added benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
My
think,
only concern would be graffiti, just because that's what it is, but for an opaque surface, you're gonna get that with anything, any material. So,
yeah.
as long as that's handled appropriately, which the city has mechanisms for that.
yeah, I think you're right.
I appreciate how well you've taken care of your business up here. You've made it very nice and expanded and stuff. The only issue is you do store a lot of cars outside. So that's probably one of the facilitating reasons for moving here, is so you have a place to store the cars. So you won't be using the parking lot for storage. It's just the fenced area. Okay.
I move we approve the fence height of 7 feet and concrete as the fence material for the enclosure of outdoor storage located at 6941 South Rivergate Drive, with a finding noted in the staff report.
Second.
Roll call.
Chair Lidke,
Yes.
Vice Chair Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
Commissioner Kasparian.
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, our fourth item of business is Midvale City has initiated rezone request to remove the 7200 South overlay from the northeast and southeast corners of State Street and Fort Union Boulevard. Information regarding the proposed regulations, prohibitions, and permitted uses that the property will be subject to if the rezone is adopted can be found in the Midvale City Code 17-7-7. is the State Street Commercial SSC zone, and 17-7-6 is the 7200 South Overlay Zone.
Yes. Okay. So in maybe a total reversal of what we talked about earlier, this is an area of the city where an overlay zone has been applied, and we're recommending staff to remove it. So the overlay that currently exists, the base zoning is the State Street Commercial Zone, and the overlay is the 7200 South. And that was really designed to supplement the mixed use zone, which is not any of these parcels. So it doesn't seem to make any sense that it was included in this area. And in fact, the 7200 South overlay restricts the commercial State Street Commercial Zone in a number of ways, much lower height, as it was designed to supplement, mixed use and residential, so a max of 35 feet, where the regular State Street, I think you can go up to, I should have fact checked myself, 55 feet, I think, but much higher. And it just doesn't feel appropriate to have it in this area anymore. So in 2022, I mentioned this in the staff report, there was a State Street corridor study that we did, and with some visioning and some efforts with that, this was one of the big recommendations from the consultants to help facilitate a more walkable, pedestrian-centered commercial environment, and the 7200 South overlay was restricting that. So, yes, motion has remained the same as included in the staff report. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll open it up to public hearing. If you have any comments on this issue, if you'd please come forward and state your name.
My name is Dave Murrup. I own Jordan Moore on State Street, just north of where you guys have proposed this. One thing I would like to say tonight is, and I wish I'd have stood up when the other people were here, it probably would have made a bigger impact. But 7200 South has become the second south of Salt Lake County. Prostitution, drugs, and you can all say it's not, but if you want to come and work in my shop for 6 days, you'll find out. The cops are over at the Bowery trying to get rid of people. They break through fences. They come in and use your restroom. You go in there and they've shot up with needles to take their drugs. And the prostitution, it does exist. We can all say it doesn't, but it does exist. So before you make any proposals like this to glorify a place for them to come and work their trades and sell their drugs, I think the city needs to address the problem of the drugs, of the prostitution, and all the homelessness that goes on there. It's not a pleasant place. It used to be. It used to be a great place, but it's turned south. I hate to see a city like Salt Lake is in the national news now as one of the most expensive places in the United States to buy property and build a home or something like that. And the other thing with apartments, what comes with it. If you build it, they will come. And what I'm talking about is people who live in apartments, especially high-density apartments, have nothing to do. They don't have anything to do at night. They're usually groups of people that live there, and what they decide to do, they go out and get in trouble. Whether it's vandalism or break into somebody's property or something like that, to steal something or whatever. Get drunk, get rowdy, be whatever. So, and I can attest to you, I don't live in Midvale, I live in Sandy. And I have some apartments that are near my home. There used to be none there. They're over by Quarry Bend. There used to be no vandalism in our neighborhood. There used to be no break-ins into a home. There used to be no cars broken into, but that's all gone. So my recommendation to you guys is just take a deep breath. You think about what I've said to you tonight and really evaluate this proposal that you got. State Street's no different than it's a parking lot. If you don't believe me, come down at 6 o'clock. And the more traffic you put there, the more high-density population you put there, you know. And to be honest with you, I looked at the facade of all of the little businesses there that are exposed to 7200 South going on the north side of it. There's not an ugly thing there. There's not an eyesore there. I think it's just some developer, and I don't know if he's here tonight or if this is a proposal that you guys are proposing, but all it is to make someone wealthy at the expense of everybody else. So, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
My name's Sean Kerr. I live just around the corner from this on 7100 South. And my reason for being here tonight is just for information, because I didn't understand what it means to remove this overlay. So I guess I just don't, what's going to happen on in that area if they remove this overlay? What does that remove exactly?
I believe it reverts back to State Street Commercial.
Yes, I mean, I maybe wouldn't use the word revert because that is the base zoning, so that is what applies. The overlay really doesn't serve any purpose in this, so.
Then why do we need to remove it, I guess is my question.
What does
that do?
7200 South give them if we use that overlay?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't give them higher
It's causing
density.
more restrictions than it's.
No.
Oh, okay.
So if we remove this, it will give them
It's basically just
higher
commercial.
buildings.
Yes.
It'll give them more options to develop.
Commercially.
If we remove that.
Commercially.
Yeah.
Not residential.
So you could put,
Residential is still allowed in the State Street commercial.
Oh,
So
okay.
that, yes, that
they
is,
could go
it's
taller,
still
they
an
could go-
option.
so this, I guess my question is, why are we doing this? Is there somebody that wants to do something here that's asking for this? Or is this just, we're just deciding to?
No, it wasn't initiated by a development or a developer in general. It was a recommendation from a consultant that would help align the State Street corridor to be more of what the city was interested in, which is more walkable commercial that is closer to the streets, things like that. So.
So there was a study done, and so it triggered us, the city, the planners, looking at what are the restrictions in this particular area, and they noticed this overlay was being a bit more restrictive than what the study came out, that the city wanted. So they're removing something to allow us to align with what the city wants for State Street.
And exactly what is that? Are we wanting to have more businesses there? More apartments? I mean, I guess I don't understand what we want there and why we're removing this, to make it less restrictive.
It's mostly that it doesn't serve a purpose. I'm not sure why it was included there in the first place, because it supplements the mixed use zone, and none of those parcels are zoned for mixed use. So it seems defunct, which is mostly why we're removing it. As someone else,
mostly
other
house
staff
cleaning?
could correct me if I'm wrong.
I guess
but-
that just doesn't make sense to me.
It's mostly house cleaning that we're doing
Yes.
here.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah,
It's
this
mostly
is-
house cleaning that we're trying to make it all one,
Okay.
It's more clear.
yeah, a little bit more clear. So if you came in and said, hey, I want to open this really great restaurant here, you might have restriction in this. This way it eliminates that. Does that make
But
sense?
if I said I wanted to build a 7-story apartment complex right there, are we gonna be able to do that? Is that gonna happen?
No.
No, okay.
No.
All right.
No changes are being proposed to dwellings or heights or anything like that.
We're just doing housekeeping and we,
All right.
yes.
I
Keep
was
it public.
confused. I got the letter and I thought, well, what does that
Well,
mean?
we keep it
So,
public,
Yeah,
transparency. We want you to know it's just housekeeping, basically. We're cleaning up something that seemed to be kind of redundant.
yeah.
And so we're gonna clean it up, make it easy to come in. I'd like to see State Street better. I grew up just off of State Street and it would be
Well, I
nice
mean,
to
I
have
just
it
live off
cleaned
State
up.
Street, a block up 7100.
It'd be
so
nice
just up
to
the
have it.
street from Jordan Mower here, and there has been a lot more crime in that area, and I don't
Right.
understand. Is this gonna change that, or is it gonna make it worse, or is it gonna, it's not gonna change anything?
No net effect.
Thank you. I just had a question. I didn't understand it.
Well, it was good, thank you.
Thanks for being here.
I should say, I didn't mention earlier, I didn't receive any objections leading up to the staff report, but I have fielded a number of calls with people just curious about what the impact was, but no one opposed it, mostly just interest in what was going on.
Makes sense.
So does the 7200 South overlay on that property allow for apartments, mixed use?
No, the State Street Commercial allows for that anyway, so it's not allowing anything that wasn't already allowed. I don't know what to say other than it really doesn't make any sense that it's there. It doesn't serve any purpose, so.
If you read this zone, in the beginning, first sentence says, this chapter supplements the mixed-use zone. The problem is there is no mixed-use zone right here, so I'm not sure how this developed. It is an inconsistency. It shouldn't be there. I mean, it's really, truly a housekeeping item. Even if a developer came in today and said, oh, I see something in this overlay that I'm really interested in and I want to develop it, we would look at it, the attorney would look at it and say, but this only applies if you're on the mixed-use zone. And therefore,
it's not, it's on the State Street Commercial. So, okay. So it's not, it's just, okay. I was just wondering if we were giving them the ability to build apartment buildings there with the overlay, but nope, it's State Street Commercial, it's strictly commercial, and with this overlay, it's just redundancy, because they can't use the overlay for anything because they're not in a mixed-use zone.
I don't know. I don't know why it was put there or how it got on those parcels.
It's
so
probably easier to draw. It was just.
I'm sure.
I move that we close the public hearing portion. Did we already do that?
Nope.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, public hearing portion is closed. Any comments from staff?
Discussed it out.
Attorney?
This is a legislative decision, so it's up to you.
Okay.
Whether you want to recommend approval or denial.
I'm all about efficiency. Okay. I move that we recommend approval of the rezone request to remove the 7200 South overlay from the northeast and southeast corners of State Street and Fort Union Boulevard, consistent with the findings included in the staff report.
Okay, roll call vote.
Was there a second?
Oh, is there a second? Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
A second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Chair Lidke,
Yes.
Vice Chair Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
Commissioner Kasparian.
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, our next.
We're halfway there.
Halfway there. Yep, we're halfway there. Okay, the next one is another Midvale City initiated request to amend section 17-7-7.1, point 4, point 5, and point 8 of the State Street zone of the Midvale City Municipal Code. These changes encourage enhancing building frontages and increased activation of outdoor spaces.
Yes.
And Elizabeth will be presenting.
Yes, me again. Thank you. So along with the study that was done in 22, other recommendations were made to what we could change in the State Street commercial zone to get some of these enhancements on the State Street corridor that we're talking about. So I've tried to pull out and bullet everything that was included in the text amendments. Some of the notable ones are going to be a reduced front yard setback. So from 15 to 10 feet, but that 10 feet is for activated spaces, and they can go further to 20 feet if they're doing outdoor dining, shopping, some kind of activation of the space there. Otherwise, the proposal is to bring them closer to the street and to kind of build that area. For buildings that have lengths that are more than 50 feet, they need to bring in some breaks and some articulation to those facades. We've added a section that allows for outdoor dining on State Street. It wasn't currently allowed in the code, so we've added that. some changes to off-street and structured parking that require it to be in the side or rear of the development, that surface parking lots, if they're visible, they're not allowed to be visible from adjacent streets. They can't charge more for guest parking. So I just included those as a glance. They're everything that was included with the attachment in your staff report. So any questions about the changes for me? I didn't receive anything on this item either.
Did you have any comments on this one?
No.
Okay, that's what she said, okay. All right, any questions for Liz? All right, thank you, Liz.
Thanks.
All right, we'll open this up to public hearing. If anybody would like to make comments on this motion, you may come forward now.
I move that we close the public hearing portion.
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, public hearing is closed. Attorney, any comments?
So this is another change to the zoning code legislative decision. It's in your discretion whether to approve or whether to recommend to the city council approval or denial.
Okay.
I think this is cool. It's nice to see a study have results and actually put them into the books. So that's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, now if we can get UDOT to fix up State Street and then we redevelop it.
7,200.
And 7,200, yeah. Where's UDOT?
Chairman, maybe as a side note, UDOT was actually part of this study.
Oh, great.
They participated, but they, in the end, said they can't make many changes on State Street. But we've been pushing that, and we continue to do that, because in the long run, at some point, it's a state road. There will be changes, and when that opportunity comes, then we'll try again.
Well, thank you.
I move that we recommend approval of the amendment to the State Street commercial zone as provided in the attachments with the finding noted in the staff report.
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
All right, roll call vote.
Vice Chair Lidke,
Yes.
Vice Chair Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
Commissioner Kasparian.
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, thank you. Okay, on to the next. Midvale City initiated amendment to section 16.02.050E of the Midvale City Municipal Code. This amendment requires that private streets meet public street standards. Adam Olson will be presenting for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Planning Commission. This is another city-initiated text amendment dealing with private streets. The proposal is that while private streets may still be allowed in developments, that they mimic or match the standards or design standards of public streets. Currently, private streets would require a right-of-way width of 35 feet. 20 feet of that would be pavement width. And then it also allows an option for sidewalk on one side or both sides of a private street. And on a public street, it needs to be a right-of-way width of 50 feet, a minimum of 25 feet of pavement, and then sidewalks on either side. One of the reasons, or the reason we're doing this is just A, for cleanup, and then B, if there's a time where a development with private streets, let's say the HOA goes defunct or the property owners are not able to maintain those private streets, they may come to the city and ask the city to take over maintenance. And if that occurs, the city would like those streets to be built to basically a public street standard so they're easier to take over and maintain. I've had a few calls on this. There were 2 letters received in opposition, which you have. Those were emailed to you last night. Again, this is just a staff-initiated request. You may choose that you want to keep the private street standards as they are. And if that's the case, I would recommend that you recommend to the council denial of the proposed text amendment. Otherwise, the proposed language is on the screen in front of you, and there is a motion for a recommendation of approval. Again, you may decide otherwise, and we'll take whatever you decide forward to council.
Can I ask what happens to the existing private streets that meet the old conditions and not the new ones?
Obviously, they're as they
They'd
are.
be grandfathered.
So this is just developments going forward?
These are new developments, yeah. A new development that you may, a newer development that's, well, it's still under construction, the Mills project on, I believe, 80th South. They have private streets. Typically, you'll see private streets in single-family and maybe duplex-type developments. Usually, multifamily developments, townhome developments will use internal drive circulation aisles that are outside of private streets or public streets. These are just strictly private streets. Right now, the code allows incentives for private streets. If the Planning Commission finds that the incentives are met, one of the criteria is a private street. We're not taking that away. We're not taking that incentive away. It's just we're asking that the private street be built and designed to a public street standard, that's all.
Great.
I, as a developer, I think this is gonna kill a lot of projects.
That extra width,
That's a lot of width.
yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it makes access slightly better for emergency services? I mean, you're weighing,
Fire trucks,
Yeah, I
two
mean,
cop cars and an ambulance came in the
yeah,
other
first
night.
subdivision wouldn't be approved.
yeah,
But I still had, everybody came in the other night, so I think we're okay.
and they got out.
It's fine.
Sometimes that's the,
Took the bad hombre out.
oh dear.
Okay.
With this, Adam, how large of a community would this apply to? Just if it was a 4-unit?
It could be as small, as small as, let's say there's only 2 units and they wanted a private street, it could apply to that. Or it could apply to as large as the property and zoning would allow. So right now, probably the largest development that I can think of off the top of my head with private streets is the Mills, and that's, I believe, over 80 units when it's built out, and they'll all be on private streets.
But it doesn't affect flag lots?
If a flag lot is on a private street, let's say their access is on a private street, then that street would need to be, if the amendment is approved, it would need to be to the public street standards. But no, it does not affect the flagpole portion of a flag lot. That isn't being touched. This isn't a driveway, this is just a street.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would have been mine.
Thank you.
But if you're accessing more than one unit,
Yeah.
Right.
you have to put 50 feet of street in.
Yeah,
Right,
and
that
I
would
believe
kill
there
a
are
lot of
provisions for
smaller
flag lots
developments.
to access more than one unit. This is just, let's say, let's say there's a 20-acre piece of property somewhere in the city, and the developer says, I'd like to build this to private streets, because, well, right now, they can be a little bit narrower, and I could potentially get an increase in density. We're not taking away that increase in density. That'll still be allowed. It's just, okay, yeah, you could do a private street. We're just asking for consideration that it be built to public street design standards. Again, you may not think that's a good idea. I respect that. But that's just, we're bringing that forward. We feel it is a good idea, so.
So what's the width of private streets?
Right now, private street width is a right-of-way width of 35 feet and a minimum pavement width of 20 feet. Public streets are 50 feet right-of-way, sidewalks on both sides, and a minimum pavement width of 25. So the pavement width itself is only a 5-foot difference. We're providing basically park strips and sidewalks on both sides versus a slightly narrower pavement width and the option to have a sidewalk on one side.
All right.
Public comment.
You had a question?
I did, it left, but that's okay.
All right, we'll have a chance. Okay, we'll open this up for public comment, public hearing. If anybody would like to make comments on this, please come forward and state your name.
Yes, my name is Mike Dancy, and I own some property on 3rd East. And we're trying to put a duplex development in there. And with that 50-foot wide driveway that they want, we don't have the property available to us. When my dad was alive, he came down and talked to the planners and says, how big a piece of property do I need to leave to get people in and out? And you guys said 35 feet. He left that. That's what we have. We don't have access to any more. And if you go to the 50 feet, what are we going to do with the property? So my recommendation is, if you're going to pass it, at least give us a grandfather so we can build the property and put people in there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you for your help.
Thank you for being here, participating.
It will affect density too, because
You have to use more
yeah,
land.
you're losing green space, you're using pavement.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments?
She's coming.
My name's Kayleen Carley. I am the real estate agent helping this family sell this property. And it is true that they do not have any more property, a 35-foot access into the property. We have had multiple offers, multiple developers interested in the property, and due to this being brought forward, it has caused us a lot of financial distress already. Not to mention that we have been in and out of contract because of this specifically. It's a great piece of property, and we would like to see it developed. It's in the duplex overlay zone. We would like to see it have some great property for Midvale. It needs great housing, and I don't see how adding a second sidewalk and 5 feet can be so beneficial as to put the financial stress on the property owners and the developers in this particular situation.
So is 3rd East a private road?
It is not.
Okay.
There are 2 developments just to the north of their property, Twin Bridges and Romans Court. They are both private roads currently, and they meet the 35-foot standard. So we are essentially looking to create property exactly like that right next door.
Okay.
And they are beautiful.
Okay. More than just a duplex, but okay.
Yeah.
More twin homes.
Twin
type.
homes,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, it's about 2.5 acres.
Okay.
So.
So a good chunk of land.
Yeah, yeah. So.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You got a good agent that will show up and help.
One thing I forgot to say is
If you'd come to the rostrum. Most agents would avoid this meeting, so,
Okay.
she's earning her keep.
3rd East in front of the property that we have is less than 30 feet across. And then they want us to go to 50 feet to narrow it into a 30-foot street? Because right there, the street goes through, and then it goes through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the technical terms.
Yeah. But we can visualize it with your terms.
Well, that
Better.
was the idea I wanted to get across. But at the time, Midvale City came in and says, we're going to widen it, everybody said, great, do it. And then they chopped it up, narrowed it down, then widened it back out. And everybody's going, what's the deal here? Why did they do this? Why didn't they just take the property and widen the whole street? As it is, in that one section, 2 snowplows cannot go opposite directions together because they'll hit their blades.
Maybe a quick comment just to get the facts straight. The street is actually 60 feet wide. It is not improved to that standard right now, but the land is there. So 300
right
east,
there in
the
that
right of
one-
way is there.
That one specific area, it's down to barely 30 feet from sidewalk or from curb to curb.
Yeah, that may be correct, but the ground that the city owns is actually a lot more than that. And that's really the main impact.
But the people that owned those properties said, look, we'll sign over this property to the city so that you can widen the street. And the city said, no, we don't want to do that.
This was all before we were all born.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Any other comments?
Sorry.
You guys are doing good. We haven't had to mandate a timer, so.
Well, start the clock.
Oh, no. I'm
don't
eating
make
my
us.
words.
So, my name's Kelly Danzy. This is my father, and his father passed along with my grandmother. And they owned 67, 66 South, 30s. For many years, they've had an RV storage in the back portion of the property, which is several acres. Now they're gone. We're trying to get this developed, but that alleyway that comes back there doesn't and won't meet this criteria. There's no way to really grandfather this in because this will be new development. And that access alleyway is kind of the hang up. So there's not really a way to get a variance either. Plus, I don't see where this benefits current and future residents of Midvale. I mean, we've had fire trucks in there. We've had ambulances in there very recently. So they're still able, but with a private lane, I don't really understand. It's just this directly impacts residents, especially right there. So I recommend you don't approve this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I move that we close the public hearing portion.
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, public hearing is closed.
I do have one question for Adam. How has this happened, like, how many instances has the city had to take over some of these private streets?
So I'm not aware of any at the moment. This was just looking ahead in the future, looking at all of the private streets that we currently have and thinking, okay, if the day comes that we're going to have to take any of these over, it would be nice to have a more uniform standard moving forward, because we do have quite a number of private streets in the city. I'm not aware that the city has taken any over, but there are some that are on the verge of maybe needing that are a little falling apart. And so we're just looking at maybe the writing on the wall, or trying to look ahead and thinking, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to manage these if and when we have to take them over? That's really where it's coming from.
Right.
But if you feel that they're serving their purpose and they're great, we understand that, and that's fine too. It was just to bring it forward.
Thank you.
I mean, I like the future, the forward thinking is, so, as these PUDs and condos and stuff age, they're not as a desirable location to live and stuff, because they have to put so much money into repairs and no one can afford it. And so if the city had to take over, then it makes it easier for snow plows and services and stuff like that. And so I can see that being important.
I think it hinders growth.
I think given the size of a lot of Midvale's lots, it is prohibitive for future density or improvement in density. But I appreciate the forethought about the city going forward and about how to better maintain some of those things that may in 20 years not be maintained. So I appreciate that, but I feel like it's prohibitive for development.
And I just wanted to add quickly, if you feel that this is something that we should look at in the future, we can always bring it back. Maybe you don't necessarily need to recommend denial, but recommend, or you table it, and it could be tabled almost indefinitely until it's decided to be brought back. So it's not just an either or, recommend approval or denial. You could just table it and we just either discuss it again or just kind of follow your direction. So there are a couple other options.
I think I'm comfortable with just tabling it.
I say we just deny it.
I'm on the deny.
I move that we recommend denial of the amendment to Midvale City Municipal Code Section 16.02.050 related to private street design standards.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
No.
Oh, roll call vote, sorry.
Chair Lidke,
Yes.
Vice Chair Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
Commissioner Kasparian.
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right. Thank you for being here and participating.
We didn't land a plane.
Vendelin will be presenting for the city on the next item. It's Midvale City Initiated Amendment that creates Chapter 17-6, Supplementary Regulations within the Midvale Municipal Code. The effect of this amendment will be that Midvale City adopts the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District water efficiency standards.
There are two things to consider on this. First of all, just turn this on. Here we go. We are creating a new chapter, supplementary regulations, and you'll see that we're going to use this more often in order to place regulations in this chapter that are common to really all zones. That will help us in the future if you project this out by years and decades to maintain the code more easily and more precisely. Right now we are struggling with having identical or very similar language that's duplicated 10 times, 15 times, 18 times in the different zones. And it's basically a different approach to building a code. And so we're creating this for that purpose. And we also have another circumstance here why we are doing this, and that is water conservation. I don't know if you've ever looked at turning your turf into something else, like landscaping rock, mulch. There are programs that will reimburse you for each square foot you convert away from turf. The Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District, our neighbor here on the other side of the Jordan River, has a program that encourages this. In order to get the full rebate, you have to live in a community that approves their water conservation standards. And these standards are relatively simple, I would say. They supplement what we already have. There's really not a conflict. If the city approves this, then any citizen in Midvale who applies to this program can get the full rebate. That's really what this is about.
How do we stand with artificial turf?
Pardon me?
Do we have artificial turf in Midvale? I mean, some are saying no in certain areas.
Artificial turf, I don't know that the code necessarily prohibits that. Our code does clearly allow xeriscaping, which means drought-tolerant plants, landscaping rock, mulch. There's a whole battery of tools one can use. If artificial turf is part of that, I'm sure the answer is yes. If someone puts a front or backyard of 15,000 square feet into artificial turf, then we would have to search the ordinance and see if that is actually allowed. If it's at that scale.
We have a neighbor that I'm jealous of their green turf.
And it's always green, I take
their
it.
Their green AstroTurf.
Yeah.
It's always green. It's just nice.
Yes, sir.
I was just going to say, my recollection, and this, it would be prudent of me maybe to, I was trying to pull it up really quick, but the standards that are being adopted from the Water Conservancy District, I think, allows a certain percentage of the yard to be turf, but not the whole thing, if I remember right. Right, and so in as much as we're adopting those standards, that's my
That
recollection.
could affect, okay.
So, I mean, this is the background of this amendment. So there are really two things rolled into one item that looks forward and is really related to the structure of our code, and then the water conservation standards from the Jordan River Water Conservancy District. If you're interested, you look at their website. The web page looks like this. There's a link up here. Read the standards. That pulls up the document, and there are. I would have to guess now, but I think it's the vast majority of cities in the Salt Lake Valley have approved this.
Yeah, I did attend a local scapes in Midvale,
Yeah.
talking about these same kind of standards and how you approach it. And it's very detailed and very thought out, but it's also flexible for different scenarios. So, yeah.
Oh, good.
So, and this is the recommended motion. That's at least the staff recommendation on this.
And would the city be using these same standards for their properties? If they're not already?
Pardon me?
If they're not already, is the city?
These standards aren't really geared for municipal purposes, and there are carve-outs. I mean, for example, a public park. I mean, no one expects that a public park doesn't have turf. So that's basically that actually is in those standards as a carve-out, from what I remember.
Great. Any more questions for Gwendolyn? All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We will open the public hearing portion of this.
I move that we close the public hearing portion.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any discussion?
My only concern is the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy, like their rules limit lawn to the greater of 250 square feet or 35% of the landscaped area. And I wonder if this impedes people's ability to deploy lawn in their yard to the effect that they'd like.
Definitely will.
It would,
Yeah.
I would imagine, but it would be in line with our temperate desert.
And neighboring cities and such.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, does this include the backyard too?
The entire landscape.
Entire landscaping, only 35% can be grass.
So the grandkids can't go out and play football.
Yeah.
I mean, they can in 35%.
Is it the entire property,
Yeah.
or is it just the lawn?
Landscaped area.
The landscape area, so, okay.
I can pull this up for you. I don't know. It seems you've already pulled it up. If you think about it this way, and if you have it pulled up, you can maybe see where that paragraph is. If I understand it right, there's also provision for activity areas, and if you have a special purpose for the turf. So to say that this is a full restriction, I don't know that it goes quite that far. The other thing that you need to be aware of is that the city's ability to actually enforce some of this with landscaping was actually limited by the legislature. It seems like 2 sessions ago. For example, we can't take landscaping bonds anymore if it's on private property. So that's also something that feeds into this a little bit. Also, if you pull up an aerial image of my home, we have about, I'm pretty sure we had maybe definitely less than 50%, a lot less. We have a lot in mulch. So, I mean, it doesn't, if you don't have turf, that doesn't mean it has to all be flower beds, and that you couldn't have use of it, including kids playing.
I just have a pool out back.
He's correct. There is an active recreation area that is
So you'd have to
exempted.
justify that I need grass in my
So do you
backyard
go-
because
yeah,
of
you
my
go to them and
kids.
say, my
Well,
kids play
yeah.
soccer.
It's
I need
defined.
grass.
Yeah.
It's defined as active play, non-capitalized. So
But who makes
you
that
get
decision?
to. You probably do. I mean, that's right.
Who would make that decision if you came in and said, I need grass in my backyard because my kids are in sports?
The city'd go, no.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
Let me put it.
So these, my understanding is this program is fairly new. Okay, maybe not.
It's been around for quite a while,
New
but
to us.
But however,
How late is it?
And we're working out exactly what that means as a city, right? I think in as much as you're trying to get the rebate from Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District, I think they're the ones that you'd have to convince, right? That it satisfies what they're asking for.
But if you're trying to get the rebate, you're not going to put lawn in, so you're not going to even go to the city and say, I need lawn for active sports use. So
Yep.
then it boils back down to who at the city makes the decision to let you go above the 35%.
it's whoever would issue a permit, if this is something that requires a permit. If it doesn't require a permit, then correct me if I'm wrong, then the implication is that the city doesn't feel it's significant enough to actively monitor. You think about building of a shed. If the shed is less than 200 square feet, you can build whatever you like in your backyard. So this would maybe be a similar situation.
Yeah, I don't think people are coming in asking for landscaping permits from the city. We don't issue those.
No, I'm just looking
not
at
for
it
like
from
single-family homes or whatever.
New
right?
construction.
For new construction, yeah, it would have to go through the site plan review, and the planner that's reviewing it would have to, I guess, be convinced that.
Or even a remodel
It's
that already has an
appropriate.
existing yard. Would that mean that you had to apply to the new less than 35%?
So technically, if you're redoing your yard, yes, you should comply with these new standards. I think what Vendelina is saying is we don't know to what extent that will be enforceable, or to what extent. Right, the city doesn't actively go out and say, "Hey, I see you're changing your grass. We're gonna go after you." Right. Usually, these things come to our attention when people are doing new development that requires a permit. This doesn't, and so.
So what are you doing really with this? What is
This
the point of this? Just
So
so I'm
the council has been getting a lot of comments from residents that they cannot get these rebates from Jordan Valley unless we adopt these standards. If we adopt these standards, they're eligible for those rebates. So the council is interested in this moving forward.
So did they change it? Because I put a certain timer in and there was like 3 things I had to do and I got a rebate from the water company.
But you didn't get as much as you could have.
You could have gotten more.
And it did change.
But I have grass that my kids can play on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this program has evolved over time. I know I put a new sprinkler timer in probably 10 years ago, and I got a rebate.
Yeah.
But this has been, you could say the program has been tightening up a little bit.
Okay.
And this is part of it. I mean, this didn't, I'm wanting to say this was maybe 3-4 years ago, that you couldn't get the full rebate unless you were in a community that was, that approved these water standards.
And right now, Midvale is one of the few communities that has not adopted it, so most
Yeah.
other ones have.
Oh, so we gotta be like everybody else, okay. Let's go.
This isn't going to work well for Robin.
Really? Am I crying yet? Because I'm bored to tears. Okay, let's move on.
So it sounds like there's really not any kind of enforcement mechanism for this. This is
Other than when there's new development.
New development.
Yeah, we're not going to
Then
go
they
and
have to-
look over people's back fences to make sure they're, although Johnny wants to.
Now you gotta redo your landscape. This is too much.
I think Officer Utley would be very excited to measure people's turf percentage.
So I guess the question, on a rebuild, like if you're remodeling or adding on, does that require a re-landscaping plan?
Your house?
You wouldn't have, if he added on or remodeled,
No, there's no landscaping plan that the city's gonna have to sign off on. It's just if he wants to get those rebates, he's gotta show Jordan Valley Conservancy that he's met those standards. That's really where it falls. Unless it's new development and we're looking at a landscaping plan. If you're just gonna go back and redo your yard, we're never gonna know unless you want the rebate and then you work that out with them. You have to show them that you've met those.
How much is the rebate?
There's a dead horse right
Yes,
here.
I
Can
believe
we
it's
go now?
Make a motion.
It's $3 per square foot, so it's actually pretty good.
Thank you. Do we need public hearing on this? Oh my
Yes.
heavens. I'm gonna use
All right,
swear
thank you.
words
When
now.
Wendelin will open the public hearing.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Robin's ready for bed.
I'm crying over here.
Do we have a motion?
No.
Or do you want to discuss?
Oh, please, no.
I don't have much of an issue with it. I think we need to be moving more towards water conservancy.
This incentivizes that.
Yeah.
I move that we recommend approval of the ordinance creating chapter 17-6 of the Midvale Municipal Code and enacting the JVWCD water efficiency standards with the findings listed in the staff report.
Do I have a second? Second. Roll call vote?
Chair Lidke,
Yes.
Vice Chair Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
Commissioner Kasparian.
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Surprised. I was ready for a split on that.
All right, now we'll go back to the beginning and hear from Jonathan. The Midvale City has initiated amendment to section 17-7-12.2, .5, and .7 of the Regional Commercial RC Zone of the Midvale City Municipal Code. These changes remove manufacturing, outdoor storage, and warehouse distribution as uses in the zone and any associated references to them.
Thanks, Chair Lidke. So as you've already seen these criteria numerous times tonight, it falls under, in the staff report is, criteria number 1. We're just amending the zoning code here with the regional commercial zone. And this is something that you'll probably see a lot more of in the near future, of cleaning up the zones, getting rid of uses that are not desirable in certain areas, just cleaning up some language, and this is probably the first of many of those. So we're removing manufacturing, outdoor storage, and warehouse distribution, and the associated references is the outdoor storage standards and parking regulations for all of these. And these are all, and this is within just the regional commercial zone at this time. Do you have any questions for me on this?
No.
What was the company that had the manufacturing? They do the belts.
The belts.
And stuff.
Oh, yeah.
didn't they fall under this? I mean, they'd be grandfathered in at this point,
Right.
I
Yeah,
would
but
imagine.
why would we want to tell those people no?
Yeah. Because that's exactly who I thought of when I
Yeah,
read this.
that's what I was just trying to think of the name.
The belts or the socks?
They do
Belt,
both.
sock.
They do both.
Yeah, they sponsored the disc golf in the
Yeah.
park.
Yeah, that's right.
They're on High Tech Drive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, stuff like, if we approve this, then it would hurt businesses like that.
Because
But
I
it's-
think that was the reason they liked Midvale, was this was an approved use in the regional commercial.
Vendling.
Yes, so they would obviously be grandfathered in.
But going
as
forward.
Yes, but going forward, new businesses would not be able to participate in that sort of
Well, we
activity
just
in
talked
that
about
zone.
outdoor storage for unique just now. I mean,
And this is just affecting the regional commercial zone. So clean industrial still allows all of these, which is the zone that it's probably best suited for anyways, with the standards in there.
I'm tired.
But I don't think the soccer place was in that. I think he had to come get a conditional use
We
permit.
did.
Yeah.
Open this up for public hearing.
Okay.
Move on.
You think so?
Okay.
You can open it.
Thank you, John.
No?
We'll open the public hearing.
You can close it.
I'd like to close the public hearing.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, public hearing's closed. Discussion? Any comments, concerns? Anything from our attorney?
Nope, just this is legislative again, so whatever your discretion is, exercise it.
I would say, why would we put stuff like this and risk losing people coming to Midvale?
I understand
I don't think we're there yet. To tell
I
people-
understand the concept of trying to clean it up, but is it just to clean it up and not necessarily providing a space where you couldn't otherwise operate in the county?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand cleaning, but to what end? I don't know.
My thought is, you look at the regional commercial areas and where they lie. Do we want manufacturing and storage units in those locations? And that's my thought. Like, think about the regional commercial. We talked about 7,000 south and 900 east. Do we want manufacturing there or storage units?
But as oddly as it was, this belt place was considered manufacturing because they made the belts in the warehouse.
Right. And maybe we're at a disadvantage because we can remember something recently that applied.
But
And maybe that's why we're skewed one way.
That's a big company that we would have lost.
Yeah.
Another way to look at it is maybe the areas that you're concerned about, maybe those are more conducive to be clean industrial rather than regional commercial.
Right.
Because in my mind, regional commercial is like the shopping, the restaurant, whereas where you're talking about, it is zoned regional commercial, but maybe it should be clean industrial. Maybe there needs to be another zone map amendment for that area. So, because the whole Fort Union area is regional commercial as well.
Right.
And just to build on that, if you think about the Fort Union area, the uses as they are right now are broad enough that you could see a sort of a domino effect if a use that's not conducive to our retail center there moves in, then the first domino is going to fall, and so on and so on. I mean, I've seen that type of a process in other cities, and then you suddenly lose part of your tax base. And the answer may be that, if it's regional commercial, we focus that zone on truly the shopping retail type of component, and in areas, for example, what you mentioned, where we have manufacturing, if we feel this is the right area for manufacturing, we change the zone.
When it comes up, this doesn't.
The city can do that proactively. They don't have to. I mean, an existing business isn't affected because they're grandfathered in.
Can we go back to the motion now?
And I mean, you can change this from leaving out certain uses and only remove a couple, none. I mean, it's, as Aaron said, it's all up to you. Anything else, Aaron, or did
See,
I get
I like the idea of on High Tech Drive. That seems like that could very easily be rezoned as clean industrial. But along Fort Union, do you want a manufacturing coming into Walmart if they move to a bigger box, you know? And
Maybe we need to change everything all at once.
yeah, that's kind of what
So
I
maybe
was thinking
table
is.
this and then come back with a look at a clean industrial
Because
in
I
a
agree
place
with
where.
Walmart leaves, we don't want somebody coming in and, I mean, manufacturing.
Yeah,
Is-
or distribution
cost prohibitive,
center,
I think, for
or
the land, but
you know,
yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that. So
Is there room in the motion to move it instead of just taking it out, to move it to conditional?
I believe they all are conditional currently.
When I look at it, they are not conditional.
There's,
They
I
are
think the only
allowed,
one is the outdoor storage, or is that
Outdoor
one also allowed?
storage was administrative. Manufacturing was allowed.
And warehouse distribution's also allowed.
because that
Warehouse was conditional.
I like your point,
Yeah.
Dustin, in just that, you know, are we going to shut down opportunities for businesses to come to Midvale? And so I'd rather look at maybe High Tech Drive, rezoning that at the same time as amending this, so that,
Table this then.
yeah.
I think so.
Have the right
Or deny it and put something new together that.
So, I mean, I'm not against this, it's just I don't want to limit
Right.
High Tech Drive. And we're kind of cutting that off, but it makes sense, so.
So how do we propose that we table it? Like how, I make a
Yes.
motion to table?
Motion, yep.
Okay,
Move that we recommend.
Having said that,
yeah,
If we're gonna change it,
I think it's
change it?
unwise to table it indefinitely.
Okay.
Right.
Probably good to put in the motion, I table this until our next meeting or until the one after that, so that
Till
we
we
have a definite date for when we need to come back and rediscuss it, and it doesn't
How much
just
time do you
float
need
out in
to
space
review
forever.
the clean industrial, regional, commercial section?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, but we could potentially put it on next meeting. Right, I know we've already done
You
notice.
just need 10 days, right?
Yeah, so there's sufficient time for noticing reasons to do it on the
But
next
please
meeting.
don't make us renotice. It would be great if we could do not next meeting, but the meeting after.
Yeah, which would probably be the second one in May, because I believe we'll be at the planning conference.
Oh, that's right, on the
that first Wednesday.
So we could
just
table
give it
this
time,
till
and if it
May
needs to come
what?
sooner, we'll make
It'd
it come
be-
sooner.
Yeah.
The one before June.
I'd just say August, and if it's ready before then, we'll stick it on the schedule.
Yeah, I mean, it could be an arbitrary number, just in the
By
future.
the end of the year.
May 22nd is that scheduled
Let's just do
date.
May 22nd, get it done.
But what if that's the only thing on the agenda? Like, I don't think we should meet just
Oh,
to meet that requirement.
Just within this year,
Yeah,
let's bring it back within the year.
I'm okay with it until the end of the year. That way it
If
fits
it's
with,
sooner, great.
yeah.
If something comes up and we got a bunch of applicants.
Did you like that?
which
I
you
was looking at
missed it.
meeting dates, I'm so sorry.
she was pulling her Robin.
Oh,
9 o'clock.
okay,
Okay.
that's fine. I was just like, don't do it before May 22nd.
We're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna give it till end of
And
year.
if you can just give us some clear direction as we're tabling it so staff can bring back what exactly? You're
Yes.
asking for a rezone
Of
of the high
of that
tech.
high-tech area to clean
area.
industrial,
I hope
Okay.
and
somebody
then
can say all these
making
words.
those amendments to the regional commercial.
Okay,
So that, because that's in regional commercial right now, and so
Right.
we're limiting that by approving this, but it probably fits in the clean industrial.
okay. Yeah, if you could just say that in the motion so that,
Somebody can.
just wrap that all up nicely. You got it. Don't make Robin do another hard one tonight.
It's really hard for me.
I'm hoping she's taking notes.
What you
I
gonna
was
say?
Crib 6, that's what I was looking at.
Yes.
So I was not paying attention.
So we need to table it with what she just said.
So we're gonna, the motion is to table this
Till the end of the year.
till the end of the year or sooner, if staff can prepare it, and we want to look at the high-tech drive, maybe rezoning that as clean industrial, and then bring in both of those amendments
Okay.
at the same time.
I move that we table, let's see, the text amendment as provided in the attachments to reinvestigate by the end of the year to address concerns with clean industrial and rezoning of other such areas.
And
I
this is,
second it.
this is on item H.
On item H.
On item 8, okay.
H.
Sorry, we didn't.
No, that's good clarification on item H.
I second it.
Roll call vote?
Chair Lidke,
Yes.
Vice Chair Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
Commissioner Kasparian.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Good job.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good work.
turn it over to Vendelin.
Well, it's been, I think, a record-setting meeting, so I will not prolong the meeting. But thank you, everyone, for being here. And
Need to,
I
We
think
can
we
move
just
that
talk
off,
about
right?
it.
yeah, if you want to, you can move that actually.
okay.
Yeah, let's just move it because Robin's in a bad mood.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm okay.
We put her in.
I know in the,
Right?
I know
Just time.
in the bylaws, it says in March that we vote on a chair and vice chair, and it's April. So
Will you stick around for 10 minutes?
can you
Yeah.
stick around and
How do we do it? I
who
can't
has some
remember.
paper they can send out and,
What are we doing?
Voting.
We can just talk about it.
yeah, okay. I'm fine staying in, I'm fine going out, but
Hey, Robin, do you want to be chair?
Seems like a
I
lot
would
of
like to see you stay
responsibility
in.
for me.
so,
Seems like a lot of responsibility for me. How can you trust me with that
What about
mantle?
you as chair and you as vice chair?
2 women, 2 strong women.
There you
Let's
go.
do it.
Well, what do the others think?
I think that sounds great. Like, where someone else would like a responsibility, I think that's great.
I've done it. I'm out.
I've been
Sorry.
vice chair before. Pretty heavy mantle.
I think
Can
everybody
we
is.
nominate people not present?
They have to be on the.
probably not. That would be me.
Trying to get, want to nominate Kennedy? Who's not here?
Whatever we want to do.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of being chair.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
I mean, I'm more confident now than I was.
That's
a
why
year
you should
ago.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys put me in. Come on.
That was fun though.
That was
Hey,
fun.
none of that.
If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you.
It's true. It's true.
Brother.
Yeah, that's my vote.
And also, you don't have to, I mean, you can keep the
The setup.
commission constituted as is with chair and vice chair. And then if you want to change it, or if other people feel more comfortable at the next election cycle, that's doable too. It doesn't mean you have to make the change. It's
Okay.
Don't know what that means right now.
Yeah.
So status quo
Wandering
or, but you don't necessarily want to be chair,
But I agree that a challenge is good.
yeah.
And I think it's good to have a new chair every year. It keeps it fresh.
I vote chair, vice chair.
I've been vice chair.
Okay, you want to be chair?
Yeah.
I think we need official nominations.
Oh, do we?
Last year we did. Aaron?
Sure.
Wow, he's being official.
Can you tell?
I'm actually trying to read through the bylaws right now, looking.
I think we just hand wrote it, didn't we?
Handwritten.
Last
how
year
we've
we
done it in the
announced
past,
it,
is
someone
people wrote-
nominated, and then they accepted.
We nominated and then
Yeah.
accepted,
Oh, that's right.
and then,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, I think it's probably appropriate to nominate one at a time, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
We've been talking in terms of like, okay, you're doing this and you're doing this. Usually you'd nominate for chair, get all the nominees for that vote, and whoever wins that obviously is chair, and then that leaves you remaining candidates to be vice chair, and you go through the same process with nominating and
Okay.
voting.
all right. Nominations.
I'm not opposed to a newbie being it, but I hated it when you guys put me in my first year or second year.
It will be so much easier now, though.
No, but if they want to do it, you guys can do it.
It's
but
my fourth
I thought
year,
it was
so.
easy.
That's about time.
I will say it now comes with free lunch when you discuss the agenda.
That is true. That's new since you guys. So.
You don't want to be either.
I'll do whatever.
She's out.
I'll do whatever. I'll do whatever you want, people.
Checked out and out. Are we doing chair first?
Yeah, let's do chair first.
I'm going to nominate Candace.
Which Candace?
The one who's present.
Then we just decide we can't non-people here, because I can't.
Non-people here?
People not here, sorry.
There you go. Then what?
Okay, all in favor?
There's 1, 2.
Sounds great.
Aye. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Candace, you're our new chair.
Nice. Okay, I nominate Robin for vice chair.
Okay. I accept the challenge.
Yes.
Yes?
I'm fine with that.
Is lunch included in the vice?
Yep.
Okay.
Only if you're good. Only if you're good,
I
Rob.
must have been very good.
This might make her better.
Maybe she was just hungry.
She can think about it from lunch to the meeting.
All right.
Did we vote that then?
Yes.
Okay, we're in.
We voted that. You're in.
Okay, great.
Next meeting.
We can do
You're in
it.
charge.
Get a laptop.
No, I'm gonna get an iPad right now. Tomorrow, next week.
I move that we adjourn at 9:08.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, thank you. I'll be yelling at you.
Wrong.